What's up, everybody? Good morning and happy Friday. TGIF. DK show up on the air on your radio dials of 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Also available online at sportstalk1051.com. Stream it up over there. You got the app to take it on the go. So, you got your smart speakers and the video stream also up and rolling this morning. Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. If you're out and about, careful out on the roads there. 2 hands on the wheel, lights on, all that good stuff. But if you're up and at it already, appreciate you making us a part of your start. What do we got on the game plan for us this morning? The madness continues. Last night, well, day one, I should say, of again, not to discredit the playing games, the first four in that, but the real day one in the books, and already got a big time upset. Oakland over Kentucky. Maybe some of your brackets already kind of busted, and you lose a Final Four team already. Raise your hand. Me. But nonetheless, Oakland getting that 80-76 victory over Kentucky last night. Duquesne getting a victory over BYU on the early part of the day. Kansas avoiding an upset, a little controversy there towards the end with with a foul call that shouldn't have been a foul call. Dayton making a comeback to avoid losing to Colorado State. So, yeah, you get and then Washington State beating Drake over there too. So, day two begins today. The madness will begin in just a few hours from now. Northwestern's going to get everybody started off going up against Florida Atlantic at 11:15. Marquette will be in action at 1 p.m. And for the Badgers, well, it's going to be a late night. It's going to be they're going to be waiting a long time. Slated to start at 8:40, but as we know, that probably won't start on time. So give it a little bit. Might be closer to 9 by the time they start over there. So, but we'll talk some more madness. We'll talk some more college hoops. How's your brackets looking after day one? Anybody actually have Kentucky winning it all? I know some of the national peeps out there had Kentucky winning it all, but I don't know if any of our peeps who signed up for the bracket challenge had that in there or not. I know we had some Final Fours for there, but yeah, that's what happens, though, right? That's what happens. So, we'll talk that hoops, more hoops wise. Bucks last night picking up the victory. It, so it started off like, okay, Bucks are kind of cruising here a little bit. Take care of business. Giannis was back playing in the game. Bucks, leading through halftime there, but Brooklyn made it a little bit interesting. At one point, holding on to a lead in the fourth, making that comeback, but then Dame time and the Bucks closing it out, making sure that they get this victory against Brooklyn. Damian, he finished the game with 30 points and 12 assists. Dame time, just on fire again last night. Giannis in his return, 21 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. Middleton did not play. Again, back-to-back game there. So, but Beasley contributed 16. Brook Lopez had 17. So, AJ Green came off the bench and hit 5 3-pointers for 15 points, 5 of 7 from 3. Now we got a big game coming up on Sunday against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Bucks now 45-25 on the season, improving their home record as well to 28-7. 28-7. Bucks have been just amazing at home. One of the better teams in the entire NBA at home. The only teams better than the Bucks at home is Boston, who's 32-3. You've got Denver, who's 8-6, and then Oklahoma City is tied up with them at 28-7. So it'll be a battle between the Bucks and OKC coming up on Sunday. as we know, and the Bucks holding on to a 1.5 game lead over the Cleveland Cavaliers for second place in the Eastern Conference. As we got 12 games left now in the regular season. T-Wolves, they're still holding on. They're at that 3 seed right now. They're 1.5 back from the first seed, so they're going to probably be some Bucks fans. T-Wolves fans are going to be Bucks fans for Sunday as the Bucks take on OKC. But Minnesota, meanwhile, will be taking on the Cavaliers tonight. So, hey, see, there you go, Bucks fans. We can be T-Wolves fans. Knock down the Cavs a peg, and then we'll return the favor and pick up the W on Sunday against OKC over there. So we'll talk some more hoops, Bucks hoops and such throughout the morning here. Brewers wise, yesterday was supposed to be a big day, maybe exaggerated it a bit, but nonetheless, yesterday was supposed to be the day that Wade Miley pitched his first game in spring training, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen. He was scratched from his first scheduled start against the Giants. Was held out because of groin tightness, groin soreness. Now, it's not believed to be serious, but now it's now a foregone conclusion. He will be on the injured list to begin the season. So, yeah. Pat Murphy saying last night he'll obviously not be ready for the start of the regular season. Initially, he thought maybe 50-50 over there, but not expected to be ready for the regular season. So we'll see. Now that just puts a little bit more pressure on the entire staff there because we know Freddie's the guy, the number one guy now, opening day starter, still a youngster, but then you got a lot of question marks within the rest of this rotation when you don't have Wade Miley involved in it. So where do they go from here? Does that move everybody up? Colin Ray, maybe to a number 2. Joe Ross, we haven't heard a ton about him, but it sure seems like he's going to be a part of the equation here. Could Aaron Ashby maybe move up to a starting spot now, even though it seems like he's, kind of been getting ready for long relief coming out of the bullpen sort of stuff. So, but another hit to the pitching staff for the Crew this spring training when you add in, Devin Williams won't be starting the season, and now Wade Miley also won't be starting the season. The Brewers today, they've got split squad action going up against the Royals and the Mariners. Freddie is going to get the ball in that Mariners game. He's listed on there. So a final tune-up before Thursday's opening day against the Mets. But with these two, with this split squad game, got a game Saturday against the Cubbies, and then you got a game against the Diamondbacks on Sunday, Rockies Monday, and Tuesday, and that's it for spring training. That's all she wrote. That's the deal. So we'll talk some Brewers. In fact, Brandenburg. We'll talk some Brewers with our good buddy Brandenburg, who will be hopping on a little bit later. But after we're done with the program this morning, we're going to record another episode of the podcast, and we're going to make some baseball predictions and Brewers predictions. Brewers record, top pitcher, top hitter, breakout player, most disappointing, bold prediction, all that good stuff there. Plus other MLB predictions like AL East, all the division leaders and wild card, World Series, all that good stuff there too. So that'll be up on a podcast, another episode of the Man Cave podcast coming up a little bit later on this morning. We'll do a local sports rundown brought to you by Amundsen's Appliance. We've got the youth sports spotlight brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center. We'll hit that up. A little cream of the crop. We're going to catch up with Dr. Crow, Triple Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, for our Inside the Training Room coming up just past 7 o'clock this morning. So we'll get to that too. Pretty much covering everything here this morning. Still kind of quiet on the Packer side of things. Free agency has kind of been pretty darn quiet now after that initial wave. right? It's kind of been like, all right, maybe just like can we maybe get a couple more moves here or there? Maybe Green Bay's done. Maybe I think now it's just bargain hunting at this point in time. I still wouldn't mind another safety. I still wouldn't mind another veteran safety, but maybe it's just straight up bargain shopping now and seeing what they can get on the cheap and maybe kind of similar to what they did with Devondre Campbell a few years ago. Bring him in right before what mini camp and that ended up working for all pro first year and such, but maybe that's kind of the plan at this point in time. So, but still pretty quiet when it comes to Green Bay. Although if you've got social media and you've got the X, you've got Twitter and that, you're probably starting to hear about some of the top 30 visits that Green Bay is bringing in. Top 30 visits with some potential draft picks for the pack. So I guess the one signing they did, it was on Instagram. He announced it, but Eric Wilson is he put it up on Instagram that he will be back with the pack. So maybe that's their option for the strong side linebacker. Maybe that's what they're going to go with. Plus a rookie. He is a key special teams player though. But maybe with that position player essentially only playing 25-30% of the snaps because majority now goes to a nickel defense. Maybe Green Bay is looking at, all right, let's just throw Eric Wilson in there. But again, he is a very key special teams player. Very key special teams player. So, but he does have experience playing in the 4-3. So maybe this is what'll benefit him here too, because he did spend some time in Minnesota before coming over to Green Bay a couple of years ago. But yeah, you're starting to hear some of the top 30 visits. Saw one yesterday, Jerry and Jones, Florida State corner, a little bit more of a slots nickel type corner over there. So you're going to start to hear that a little bit more here too. So, but let's get things rolling here this morning. The madness continues. Day 2, brackets, all that stuff. Anybody have Kentucky going to the Final Four or the championship? And now you're kind of just feeling it right now. Like, of course, day 1, and I'm already taking a big hit right there. Taking a look at some of the games today. Where do you think that upset's going to be? Odds are we're going to get another one today, right? Odds are we're going to get another upset today. Who do you think that is? Let's make some bold predictions. All right. Let's have a little fun on this TGIF Friday morning. Bold, hot take predictions. Give me some upsets that are going to happen today. All right. Let's get things rolling here. We'll take that first break and let's talk some hoops on this rather little snowy start to your morning. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Starting today over at our good friends from Hy-Vee, 1 weekend, 2 sales. If you want some madness snacks, much madness, they've got some sweet deals on some snacks for maybe watching the games, like some Cheez-It crackers, Pringles, oh, the Fiesta dip. Heck yeah, that's on sale over there too, starting today through Sunday only. Or if you want a little bit of the healthier kick there too, they got that as well. The Halos, maybe with also spring break week coming up here for the Eau Claire area. Looking for some snacks or some foods for the kiddos this week. You can get the salty snacks over there, or the fresh, or the healthier ones, fresh savings. They've got strawberries on sale, $4.99 for a 16-ounce pack. You've got the baby cut carrots, 99 cents a pet. Oh man, we go through those a lot. I'm gonna have to pick those up. 99 cents pound for some Cosmic Crisp apples. Check it all out on Facebook to check out their flyers and such. And speaking of Hy-Vee, next Thursday we will be over there starting at about 11:30 for our opening day party. Over there at Hy-Vee. So if you got some time, or maybe you're looking for an extended lunch period and such, hang out with us starting at about 11:30. Game time will be about 12:10, 12:15. Again, it probably won't start exactly on time because, as we know, opening day they do the fancy stuff. Or I should say fancy stuff, but they do the intros and all that good stuff there too. So all right, let's get things rolling here this morning. Day two of the madness. Day two of the madness coming in here yesterday, last night. Obviously, the big one, Kentucky falling to Oakland. Jack Golke, the Wisconsin native over there playing for Oakland, or Horizon League winner. Remember, this was the Oakland team, not the California. This is Michigan. Oakland team that defeated Milwaukee in the Horizon League championship, tournament championship. But Jack 10 3-pointers to lead Oakland in the upsets of Kentucky. So that's definitely the big one. You had Duquesne beating BYU 71-67. Elsewhere, you had Kansas barely holding on after a controversial call, which looked like a clean block towards the end of the game there, but Kansas escaping with a 93-89 victory last night. NC State's also picking up a win as an 11 seed over 6 seeded Texas Tech. So, Tennessee dominating in their game. Michigan State's picking up a win early on. Iowa State's picking up a win. The Zags picking up a win yesterday too. So he had a couple upsets, but obviously, I mean, the big one being Kentucky falling. Although Illinois was in a tight one there for a while against Morehead State, but then they ended up pulling away and picking up the victory. Today, it will begin with Northwestern and Florida Atlantic. Marquette's going to be in action at 1 p.m. taking on Western Kentucky. And we know Wisconsin's going to be one of the later games tonight. It's initially scheduled at 8:40, but that's all based off of everything going on time and that. So it probably might be a little bit closer to 9 or even after 9 o'clock tonight. So if you had to make a bold prediction on maybe an upset tonight, who would that be? Let's really maybe think outside the box here. Could it be Yale over Auburn? I know some people really like Auburn, but Yale, can an Ivy League team pull off another upset? Seems like every couple years or so, we got an Ivy League team that pulls off an upset in the opening round. Could that be Yale taking down Auburn? Could UAB in a 12-5 take down San Diego State? Could Colgate's take down number 3 Baylor? They're the second game today. How about Vermont over Duke? Anybody want to roll with that one? Or is it James Madison over Wisconsin? That's quite a few national peeps out there feel like could be the case. James Madison, 31 wins. The Dukes of James Madison, 31 wins on the season, 31-3 overall. We first heard about them, and Maybe more notably is when they began the season at Michigan State and beating Michigan State 79-76. And you'll look at kind of, some of their scores and box numbers and such. And I know it's a little bit box score scouting here, but they're a high scoring team. They consistently were some of their numbers here. But so they finished second in the regular season Sun Belt standings. Appalachian State finished 16-2 in conference play. James Madison 15-3. But nonetheless, James Madison, looking at some of their numbers. Numbers over here. You've got Terrence Edwards Jr., who is their leading point getter at 17.4 points per game. TJ Bickerstaff, 13.4, 8.5 rebounds per game as well. So looking at the matchup predictors, it does favor Wisconsin 67.6% if you're into that sort of thing. But the line still 5.5. It opened initially at 4.5 in favor of Wisconsin, moved up a little bit to 5.5 for Wisconsin to get this W tonight, and potentially against Duke, or maybe Vermont can pull off the upset. But for Wisconsin to get a couple of wins, let's just keep it at that. For Wisconsin to get a couple of wins, who's got to be the key player in this thing? Who's got to be kind of I guess it's a key to victory, to kind of go back to our football days whenever we do a football Friday, your keys to victory and key matchups and all that. Who's got to be that key player in this thing? Is it AJ Storr continuing to be the go-to offensive guy and putting up over 20 points per game? Is it Chucky Hepburn, who's coming off of a pretty darn solid Big Ten Conference tournament defensively, but also making some pretty darn good shots, some clutch shots, especially, to force overtime and such? Or is it Tyler Wall? Is it Stephen Krall? Who's got to be that the key player? I mean, the easy answer is it's got to be, I think, a complete team effort. But who's maybe the one guy? Maybe the one guy that if they're going to have a game, or they just kind of really have to go out there and maybe kind of carry the team. That might be a little dramatic, but I'm looking at some of these players from James Madison, and I'm just wondering, Terrence Edwards Jr. is guard. He's a bigger guard. He's 6'6". But other than that, it's Wisconsin may have some height advantage down low. And you kind of wonder, it's like, okay, Stephen Krall, you said at the beginning, at the end of the regular season, that you were going to be more aggressive. This might be a game for you to be that extra aggressive. Because if Wisconsin has the height advantage, if they got the height advantage with this game, maybe the key is Stephen Krall to force it down there in a little inside-out game, potentially. That's kind of where I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, James Madison, their tallest dude is Bickerstaff at 6'9". Got Drell Robertson, also a sophomore at 6'9", but that's Wisconsin kind of has a little bit of the height advantage in the front court. So maybe that's where it is. Maybe it's going down low to a Stephen Krall. But I would also say Chucky Hepburn too. It's got to be it's got to be Chucky Hepburn on the defensive side going up against potentially their leading scorer, Terrence Edwards Jr. There's a height advantage for Terrence Edwards Jr. going up against Chucky. But if that's going to be the matchup, or maybe it's AJ Storr, or maybe it's Max Klesmit, or whatever, but if it is Chucky, to try to slow them down a little bit too. But I think go down with the big man. Try to win down low. AJ Storr drive into the lane. Steven Krull dominating in the paint. Work that angle. But their perimeter defense, their outside defense, they got to be ready. They got to play a really, really solid defensive game on the outside. Just my opinion. But and not to look too far ahead here, but when you potentially look at round 2 here, if I guess we're just being generic with the whole thing of like key players, I think it's Steven Krull and Chucky Hepburn. Like, I feel confident, or I feel good that AJ Storr is going to be in double-digit scoring. He's going to get his stuff. He's going to make some plays. Maybe not try to chuck up some contested threes or early threes like he did a few times in the Big Ten Conference tournament there. But I think for Wisconsin to win 2 games and get to the Sweet 16, the guys that have to go in there and have themselves a couple of really good games, I'm going to go with Chucky and Steven Krull as the 2 guys. Perimeter D with Chucky and forcing it down low with Steven Krull, especially in this first game. If they do go up against Duke, then, Wisconsin's not necessarily going to have the height advantage like they would against James Madison. And then that puts a little bit more pressure on your perimeter players, maybe like a Max Klesman, and even a little bit more on Chucky Hepburn. But we just got to take it one game at a time at this point in time. So I'm going with Steven Krull for the game tonight. It's got to be aggressive down low. Use that advantage. Use that height advantage. Marquette, meanwhile, with their 1 o'clock game today, this is I don't know what to make of Marquette. Obviously, an incredibly talented team. And I know they finished off the regular season, didn't have, when they go into the Big East tournament, they didn't have Tyler Kolek. That was a huge loss. I think the biggest key for Marquette is going to be, is he 100%? Is he close to 100%? Is that injury, that oblique injury, still going to be nagging at him? Is that going to affect his game at all? And how much, if it is? Not to overlook any opponent, because I think how many times have we seen this in March Madness? They can't overlook Western Kentucky or anything. And I know Marquette's favored by 16.5 dang points. Or excuse me, now it's 14.5. It opened up at 16.5. Now it's 14.5 here. But Marquette, there's some games that they've had this year where it's like they should have just comfortably won, or games that they should have won, and just like scratching your head, how did they lose that one? Why did they lose that game? I mean, I think Marquette gets the victory today, but then you look at potentially who they could play else, in the second round coming up here. And that's where I'm kind of wondering how is Tyler Kolek? What's is he close to that 100%? Is he, how much is that oblique going to bother him? They would play either Florida or Colorado. I would think Marquette should be able to get a win there. You got Kentucky now out of it. It's NC State versus Oakland. The winner of that potentially could play Marquette if Marquette wins a couple games here. So I think it got a little bit easier for Marquette to get to the Elite Eight. You win a couple games here, you're in the Sweet 16 heading into next week. Again, I know not to overlook teams when it comes to the NCAA tournament and such, but I feel like now Marquette's got a little bit of an easier path. They don't have to play Kentucky. They've got a path. They've got a nice shot to get to that Elite Eight. But there's been some games this year that it just kind of makes you scratch your head like, why was it that close? Or how did you barely just get that victory? Or how the heck did you even lose that game? Tyler Kolek being gone for some of those games obviously was a huge effect for that, but I think that's going to be such a key for this is how healthy is he? Is there a chance that he could re-aggravate that oblique injury? And if he does, I mean that's a huge loss for this Marquette team. There's a door here. There's an opportunity for this team, I think, to not only get to the Elite Eight, but the Final Four now. Can they take that opportunity and grab it? Can they beat some top tier teams? That's been one of the knocks on Marquette this year. So when you look at it, they got swept by UConn this year. Can they go in and beat some top tier teams? I think it's gotten a little bit easier now for some potential, Western Kentucky. I think they should be able to take care of business. I think they should be able to beat either Florida or Colorado. And then I think they'll either beat NC State or Oakland to get to the Elite Eight. And we'll see who comes out of that one. Is it going to be Houston? Is it going to be Duke? Could it be Wisconsin? But the biggest key for Marquette is going to be the health of Tyler Kolek. And with that oblique too, I mean, even if it gets a little tight, or he aggravates it a little bit, anybody who's played basketball knows if that's going to be something that's going to be nagging him throughout the tournament, that's going to affect his play. It's going to affect his play big time. Bold prediction, though, who do you think, if you had to pick an upset for tonight, who are you going to roll with? I didn't necessarily pick it on my bracket, but I think if I went with one, I might go with. It's down to two. It's down to two for me. It's either Auburn's good, but could Yale do it? Mm, no, I don't think Yale's gonna do it. So I might go with. I think I might go with the Charleston Cougars. If there's an upset, I might go with the Charleston Cougars to upset Alabama. That's where I might go. Or Grand Canyon in a 12-5. Do we call 12-5s that much of an upset anymore since it seems like every one happens every year, every couple years or something like that? I mean, if there's already a narrative, well, 12-5, there's always an upset. Is that really an upset anymore when it usually happens? No, I'll go Grand Canyon or Charleston getting an upset victory today. Let's take a quick break. We'll finish up the first hour. Bucks picking up W last night, although they almost let it slip away. Thanks to Dame time, though, they were able to close it out and get the dub. Spring cleaning is an annual tradition that many of us don't care for. We all dread. When I think of spring cleaning, you usually think of dusting, washing the windows, mopping the floors, all that stuff. This year, though, let's have a little fun with spring cleaning. Let's really leave our mark on it. Let's get some new floors from Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. See, the way I look at it, let's go big. Let's replace that carpet in your living room so you don't have to hide all those spill stains with fake plants or numerous end tables. Or let's update that kitchen floor that is completely out of style. It's time, people. So just head on over to Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire and check out all the different options of flooring that they have over there. Then Carpet City Flooring Center will work with you to set up the install of your new floors, and boom, spring cleaning is in the books. You really want to make your home feel clean this spring? Well, spring on in to Carpet City Flooring Center and look at getting a new floor for your home to make your home even look more amazing. Hey, speaking of the pod too, we dropped 2 episodes yesterday afternoon, 2 fun episodes of the Man Cave podcast. First up, again, we talked to our good buddies, former Badger offensive lineman Joe Grabowski, former Badger offensive lineman and Packer Bill Ferrario. Talked a little bit about who, if they could have like a dream matchup, or who they would have liked to have gone up against. Obviously a defensive person. Who would that have been? We hear, especially around draft time, about offensive linemen playing multiple positions. From an offensive lineman's perspective, how difficult is that to play guard, then go to play tackle, or to play tackle, go play center, and that. So we get their perspectives on that. So it's just always a good, fun conversation with them. And then second episode, we catch up with our good buddy Mark, our Bourbon Mark, also Hy-Vee Mark, but he's also involved with the Eau Claire Curling Club, and Eau Claire Curling Club will be hosting the Junior Nationals next week. So Team A Bear, one of the better teams in the entire world, and Eau Claire is getting this national tournament. So Mark was kind enough to come by and talk to us a little bit about it and preview that. So both those episodes up. They were up yesterday, but if you haven't had a chance to, a little bit later on this morning, you can check them out again wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you've got a few seconds, if you don't mind, like on Apple and Spotify, those are the big ones. If you can rate it 5 stars, just easy 5 stars. And if you got a couple extra seconds, like on Apple, if you could give it a positive review so others can find the podcast. That's how those algorithms work in the internet world. I don't know how, but apparently that's how it works. So, all right. Bucks barely squeaking by last night, although it looked like they were going to be in full control of this game in the early goings there. But Brooklyn able to claw themselves back into it. And thanks to Dame time, Bucks were able to close it out. Bucks were clinging to a 103-101 lead with just under 2 minutes left to go. But Dame time picking up a three, or excuse me, he dished. Dame stole the ball, dished it to Beasley, who knocked down a three to go up 5, and then Lillard pull up 18-footer with a little over a minute left, and then he hit a 3-pointer shortly after that. 13 points in the fourth quarter. 13 points in the fourth quarter for Damian Lillard. Giannis did come back. He did play in this game. Got a little scuffle with Dennis Schroeder there towards the end, where they were assessed technicals. Jay Crowder also assessed a technical because, well, he was having the back of his teammate Giannis there. No Chris Middleton in the game due to it was a back-to-back there. But Bucks picking up the W. Just 12 more games left to go in the regular season here. Big one coming up on Sunday against the OKC Thunder, the Oklahoma City Thunder. So, again, I personally hope, fan-wise, that the Bucks will have Middleton, Giannis, Dame, Brooke, their entire squad able to go. And I hope OKC does too, because these are the games right now. Not Bucks are still playing for some positioning in the postseason. They're up 1.5 over Cleveland. I want the Bucks to get the 2 seed because, well, if anything has shown us so far this year, the Bucks are much better at home. And knowing that they're not going to get the 1 seed, let's get the next best thing, and that's the 2 seed. But also these kind of are, good primers leading up to the postseason. You're looking at these next 3 games here for the Bucks, and it's all playoff teams. OKC, number 1 right now in the West, battling it out with Denver and the Timberwolves. You got the Lakers then coming to town on Tuesday. Lakers battling out for some positioning in the Western Conference. They're holding on to that 9 seed right now, just a half game over Golden State. Then you've got the Pelicans, who are the 5th seed in the Western Conference. Heck, even Atlanta, who the Bucks play next Saturday, is a playoff team. They're going to be a playoff team, it sure looks like, because even though they're the 10th seed, Brooklyn is 4.5 back from them. Washington, not a postseason team. That's who the Bucks have. Memphis, not a postseason team. Toronto, not going to be a postseason team. So after this week, or excuse me, after next week, a little bit easier for the Bucks after that, but then they close out against the Knicks, who they may still be playing for some positioning. Boston, we'll see how they kind of put together their game plan in that final week of the regular season. How many of their main guys are going to be playing? They'll have everything wrapped up at that point. I mean, they're already in the postseason, but 1 seed and everything will all be wrapped up. Orlando could be a good game there too, because Orlando might be playing for some positioning. They got them twice on there, and then they got OKC. Heck, that OKC game, the second to last game of the year for the Bucks. Maybe the Bucks might have something wrapped up by then. Maybe they would have the 2 seed wrapped up by then. The way things are going in the Western Conference, though, OKC's got that might be a game where it's more important for Oklahoma City in terms of some standings at this point. So tough games to finish up this regular season, but I like it because it's good primers to get into this postseason. Because if this Bucks team wants to get to the finals, I think we all just assume they're going to have to try to beat Boston in a 7-game series to get there, and that's not going to be an easy task. So even though the Bucks are in a battle to get that 2 seed, and they got a tough schedule coming up here, I like it this way because I want them to get a little primed up, ready to go for the postseason. So again, Bucks, Oklahoma City coming up on Sunday. That game is in Milwaukee. Coming up next hour, we're going to begin the next hour with some Inside the Training Room with Dr. Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. We'll catch up on the latest in the injury world, in the world of sports. Then we'll get to some baseball talk with Mr. Brandon Berg. Brewers, Wade Miley, all but it's 100. He ain't starting the season on the opening day roster. He's opening up on the injured list. Wasn't able to get his first appearance in a spring training game yesterday. He was scratched due to quote unquote groin tightness. Brewers don't think it's a major deal, but we'll see how it all plays out. But we'll talk some Brewers with Brandon as we get closer to opening day. Now officially less than a week away from opening day. And this Ohtani thing is just, I think it gets weirder and weirder by the hour. I think there's even more questions out there surrounding this Ohtani and his translator making bets. Was it actually theft? I mean, I don't want to throw a bunch of speculation, conspiracy stuff out there, but I think there's just a lot more questions than what we're getting in terms of answers right now. So we'll talk to B about that coming up a little bit later on. First off, Morgan, how you doing?
Hey, happy Friday. You and Hudsey picking up the pieces of your busted brackets?
Yeah, mine's kind of busted already.
Yeah, a lot of people's are early and often. Here you go, Kentucky. You staying up for the full game tonight?
I struggle Friday nights.
That's a late start.
I struggle Friday. I've fallen asleep on the couch by 8:30 on Fridays.
As a player, do you like late starts?
No.
Okay, so then is it just because you assume that there's better viewership, or they got the student section up because they'll be rowdy, or why the late starts?
Just, I mean, there's a ton of games today.
Yeah.
So it's, it's because it's in the East Coast too. So it's late here, but it's going to be like close to 10 o'clock over there.
Yeah. So what's the sweet spot for game time if you're a player? Basketball.
Basketball, give me about 1 or 2, I think.
Okay. What about NFL? Like the noon kick? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So the night game is purely for viewership then.
Yeah.
That's what they're banking on. Because I figure as a player, you can't want the whole day to just sit and dawdle until you have to start showing up to practice.
Give me around noon 1 o'clock, somewhere around there.
What about tea time for golf?
I'm a morning guy.
Okay.
Yep.
So every sport's a little different depending on where you're feeling those motivational levels
Yep.
at.
Yep.
All right. Well, it's Friday, so hopefully the work week hasn't driven you too mad. A little snow out there to deal with this morning. We were coming in north of Menominee, so back road's a little junky. Interstate's pretty smooth, so if you got to go that way today, you shouldn't be up against too much. Crews are out. Though you got your job, you like your sports, you're doing this. I like my job. We're happy campers. But if you could pick a different career path, what would it be? I have a list of jobs that people think are fun, but they're a lot less fun than most people think.
I want to be a college professor.
Okay. That's not on our list.
Okay.
I could see you wanted what? Sports history?
Yes.
Okay. So you got your secondary job lined up. Anything freelance. People say they think anything freelance was, but turns out from the other side, people that are doing it say finding work is a hassle, getting paid is a hassle, and you're on your own for benefits and retirement. Where would you fall on the freelance category?
See, I almost view it similar to like owning my own business. Like I feel like, oh, I'll be my own boss in that, but then I feel like I'd be under more stress.
Okay.
Like, and then I can't
Because
be
the
hands off.
accountability all falls on your shoulders.
Yeah, and
Okay.
then I would not. I'd micromanage everything.
Oh, imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah. You drive yourself nuts.
yeah. So
What about being a touring musician?
no, I'm a homebody.
Yeah, no, that doesn't appeal to you?
Nope,
Bartending?
nope. I don't
People
like
say
people.
that they would like to bartend, but then turns out in reality, there's just a lot of dealing with drunk idiots.
Customer service stuff. No, thank you.
Yeah, customer. Yeah, but here's my thing. This is something I'll plant my flag in. Talk about something mundane that you have feelings about. This is mine. Everybody should have to work food service for a finite period of time to know what it's like to be on the other side.
I've never worked food service,
See? I
but I
have.
was a full service gas attendant. Okay.
So you pumped.
But then there were certain people that said, "Well, can you check the oil? Can you check the transmission? Can you
Well, then
check
you're
the
a
air
mechanic.
tires and all that?" Yeah,
Yeah.
and there was a certain person that just took it a little overboard,
And now ruined
or
it for you?
the people that said, "I've got $1.75. Can you just put that in there?"
You're kidding.
I'm not.
$1.75 back okay, what how much would have that got you in the
A
90s?
gallon.
Okay.
Yeah,
1
I'm
gallon of
not
gas.
kidding. There were people that would said, "I," and I'm not. They probably didn't have a whole lot,
Cleaning out the change bucket.
but
Yeah,
to
I've been
come
there.
into a full service and say, "I just got $1.75,"
Well,
it's
you're not
like,
getting a tip, I can tell you
yeah,
that.
yeah. Or the
Vid
people that would come in when it's tornado sirens are going off
Look
and
at
like,
you're getting worked up now. We're taking you
it's
back to getting
memories,
worked
man.
Casper's getting lathered
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Video game testing, yes or no? Thumbs up or thumbs down on that gig?
Why not? 10 seconds.
Esports, by the way, CBTC has an esports team
Yeah,
that's doing their first, championship too, so
yeah.
see?
If it's sports ones, I can't do the fantasy ones.
You wanna go Madden? Old school
Yeah,
Madden? Okay.
yeah.
in New York. A just-released study conducted by 32 food and agriculture groups and called Feeding the Economy Report shows how much the food and agriculture sectors affect the U.S. economy positively. It shows the total economic impact of those sectors grew by almost 12% and is now at $9.63 trillion, or 20% of total U.S. output. A closer look at the study finds almost 49 million jobs are involved in the industry, up about 20% from the 2020 report, while wages now total $2.77 trillion, 34% more than 4 years ago, and taxes paid by the food and agriculture industry are now up to $1.25 trillion, 37% more than in that 2020 report. That's a look at some of our food and farm news this morning on Sports Talk 105.1 and AM 790. Go Bucky. I'm Bob Bosold.
Why are people saying, "Hugh, yeah," to Jackson Hewitt? Find out before it's too late. Hurry into Jackson Hewitt today.
Legendary.
Welcome to the Dan Kasper Show.
What time is it?
Dan.
Let me tell you now. I don't know how, but the whole world gonna know my name. Just wait and see. They gonna talk about me. Things ain't never gonna be the same.
This is the Dan Kasper Show.
Make way for me. Make way for me. You know I'm gonna be legendary. Make way for me. Make way for me. You know I'm gonna be legendary. Are you ready? Make way for me.
Second hour kicking off this morning. And this little bit of a snowy start to your Friday morning. There are a few school closings or delays, I should say, here this morning. If you want to head to sportstalk1051.com and check out the WEAU 13 News First Alert School Closings, brought to you by Hovland's and Service Master of Chippewa Valley. Glenwood City is delayed a couple hours. Alma is actually closed today. Boysville delayed a couple hours as well. Cochran Fountain City delayed 2 hours. Toma also delayed 2 hours this morning. We'll chat some baseball coming up here in just a little bit, less than a week away from the Brewers opening day. We'll talk to Brandon about that. We'll get back to some college hoops. Give me your upset specials for tonight. Make some bold predictions. Who's going to be the next Kentucky to lose tonight? So before all that, though, it's time for a little Inside the Trading Room.
Paging Dr. Crow. Breaking down the latest in sports injuries. It's time for Inside the Training Room with Dr. Crow.
You better call me a doctor.
On the Dan Kasper Show.
Somebody give me a doctor.
He's Dr. Austin Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, joining us here this morning. So first things first, Austin, how far did you have Kentucky going in your bracket?
I think I had them losing second round.
Second round? Oh, you're smart cookie then. I had them in the Final Four, so I'm a little yeah.
That'll happen.
I bought into a little bit of the Kentucky hype there, so no more for me for the future. Who do you got in your Final Four?
Geez, I'm gonna have to remember. I have Purdue winning it.
Okay.
I think on the other side, I think it's Purdue Houston in the finals.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember the other side. Those are in the finals. I can't remember my other two, but I you know what? I mean, I'm an analytics guy, so like I look and I have a hard time knocking off 1 and 2 seeds.
Mm-hmm.
So inevitably my Elite Eight's like 1s and 2s, and you look back and it never happens. But I just, when I do predict upsets, they're always wrong. So
same here. It's always like I feel like this year was like, hey, it's going to be a lot of upsets, and then when I did mine, I'm like, I'm going to go all chalk. So
yeah,
that's how it works out.
That happens.
I want to start off this morning. You know, we got some pro days going on as we gear up for the NFL draft and such, and maybe one target, first round pick, Alabama corner Kool-Aid McKinstry. Love the name, by the way. But the other day at his pro day, he ran a 40. They clocked it at 4.47, but he has a Jones fracture in there too, and he still ran a 4.47. They said he'll have surgery today. Can you give us, I know we've talked about this before, but can you give us a little bit of a refresher exactly what a Jones fracture is? And then the second part is, How impressive is that he ran a 4.4 740 with a Jones fracture?
Yeah. So first thing, a Jones fracture is a name for a fracture at the base of the fifth metatarsal. So the metatarsals are the foot to make up, or I'm sorry, the bones that make up the forefoot. So you have 5 of them, one linked to each toe. So it's on the fifth or the outside portion, and it's at the base of it. It's an area that's really problematic because the way that bone gets its blood supply, there's a couple different ways. One is what we call nutrient arteries. So those are the main arteries that flow right into the bone. And then often on the ends of the bone, around the joint and where tendons insert, there's blood supply there. So often there's what we call watershed areas where it's not really getting a good blood supply from the center portion, and it's not really getting good blood supply from the end. So it creates an area that doesn't have really good vascularity, meaning they're prone to not only injury because it just doesn't have the ability to heal itself, but when they do break, they're very difficult to get to heal correctly. So I don't know if his was a chronic one or his was an acute one. They can happen both ways, but in either event, they are hard to get to heal correctly. So they do often require a screw, especially in an athlete. If you see Jones fracture, usually our first recommendation is going to be put a screw across that. And they have a pretty good success rate. And the list of athletes that have had Jones fractures is pretty darn long. But to answer the second question, how impressive is it? Yeah, it's a painful thing. That's why athletes get them fixed, because it hurts to run and jump. So I can tell you with a healthy foot, he's going to run faster than that. How much exactly, that's obviously hard to say, but I can promise you it would impair. Just simply the pain from pushing off, you can try to fight through it, but the body's going to have some natural kind of protection and splinting of that. So yeah, it's certainly an impressive for what is 4.47 or whatever it was.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's going to stand out to a lot of people, I'm sure.
So how does that relate? Is it comparable to a Liz Frank injury?
So they're both in the foot. Liz Frank is a lot worse. Yeah,
Okay.
Liz Frank is potentially career-ending. That's the whole. Basically, it's like a dislocation of your midfoot. Now, of course, there's mild versions of it too. So you can have like a mild sprain of the Liz Frank joint, or you can have full disruption of it. And not to say that Jones fractures can't be a big problem. They can. If that bone doesn't heal, unfortunately, when we do put a screw, that doesn't work every time. Sometimes you have to come back and do bone grafting. And unfortunately, there are case reports of that not healing either. So those can be big time trouble as well, but that's much less common. So if I had to pick between the two, it's a Jones fracture all day.
So could there be for McKinstry potential for some future problems with the Jones fracture injury?
Well, if it heals correctly, not really.
Okay.
The most common issue then is going to be getting the screw taken out. So, we see that, not infrequently. Kevin Durant had one, and he had to get his screw taken back out later.
Mhm.
It's just a prominent screw, and it's right where one of your peroneal tendons inserts on the base of the fifth metatarsal. So it's an area that can irritate that tendon. So it's not uncommon to have to go back in and take it out, but that's a relatively straightforward procedure. But then unfortunately it's rare, but occasionally then you'll refracture it after the screw comes out. So you can chase your tail a little bit on that one, but luckily it tends to do pretty well.
Weird question, and this is pure speculation, but he's also a guy that was kind of getting mocked to some Packers. Could it be possible he might be going to Green Bay for that foot surgery with the specialists over there too?
Well, he is certainly well known, and he operates on a ton of athletes, so that certainly would not be shocking.
Mhm.
But Bob Anderson is certainly a short list of foot and ankle surgeons in the U.S. if athletes are going to see him. So
Mhm.
it would not be surprising.
I want to ask about. I know we've talked a lot about Kirk Cousins and such, but I've been seeing some stuff like there's people asking, can he even be ready for the start of the regular season when it's coming up here? And I guess maybe I'm a little bit, I just assumed he would be, but is there realistic chance that maybe Kirk Cousins actually wouldn't be ready by the start of the season in September, still recovering from that Achilles injury? Do you think?
I think he will be, but it's certainly something they'll have to watch. The recovery timeline for those, and we beat that horse dead with the Aaron Rodgers
Mhm.
saga, shall we call it?
Yeah.
That was just outside any realm of possibility, essentially from the get go. And so it created a whole bunch of hoopla and whatnot. But if you're looking at his time frame, I think getting back to this season, I think both those guys are going to be certainly ready to play. Will it affect the way he plays? Potentially. And their style of play at quarterback is just different than a receiver, running back who may have a little bit harder time. Not so much because you're worried about the tendon re-rupturing, because the leg just isn't ready for it. There's still fatigue and weakness, and they just don't want to push it too fast and end up getting some other issue in the leg. But most of the time, you're going to let people get back roughly in that window, because at that point, not only is the tendon healed, but the leg has kind of been rehabbed and they're ready to go.
He's Dr. Crow inside the training room, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, with us this morning. I'm going to ask you a question that Hudson asked me the other day, because this is in your wheelhouse. But he's like a diehard. He's into the NBA right now because it's basketball season and such. And he's a little frustrated because Julius Randle hasn't been playing yet for a while. And he asked me the other day, he's like, Dad, when is Julius Randle going to be back on the court? He last played at the end of January, and he's got a shoulder separation, and I was reading a little bit, or dislocated shoulder. But obviously the potential for a re-injury. So if Hudson's listening right now on his way to school, Austin, what would you tell him? Like a couple months yet, or playoffs potentially?
That's a tough one. I mean, shoulder instability is a tricky one. I mean, there are times where we're able to get people back very quickly. Like we reduce a shoulder on the sidelines and they're back in the game. You see that. I mean, to bring it to Hunter Dickinson, who had dislocated his shoulder I think it was in the Big 12 finals or semifinals. It was some point not that long ago. I was actually watching that game live and saw that shoulder come out. He's going to be back playing. So, I mean, you can get back quickly. It depends on how the shoulder's acting. I mean, some guys, and it depends on the injury pattern and the location of the labral tearing, which is usually what happens with the dislocation. So if people remain stable and they feel like they have good motion and strength, we can get them back pretty quickly. Now, there's always that risk of it coming out again. And as soon as you have a second occurrence, the risk goes way, 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 way up. So often that's really what we use as a guide. So we'll try getting an athlete back. If they keep coming out, then we talk about shutting them down. But there are times where they'll just try to push through the season and say, look, I'll get it fixed in the off season. We do see that a lot in a lot of sports, that people just try to go through it. So to answer the question, it really has to depend on how his shoulder's acting, stability wise. If it's remaining stable and they're working on strengthening, it should be pretty quickly. If he still has sensations and true instability, it could be, I don't say indefinite, but that sometimes pushes you to saying, look, we need to shut the season down, operate now. And that's probably the algorithm they're working through as we speak.
Interesting. Not to keep going back and forth, but I forgot to mention this with football. And I saw this the other day, earlier this week. So Chase Young signed a deal with the New Orleans Saints. And I was reading some tweets from Albert Breer from Sports Illustrated. And he noted that scans on his neck made it tough to find a suitor. No one would clear him on his physical. The condition was initially found after he had a stinger last year against the Browns in a preseason game. He will have neck surgery tomorrow, which was just a couple days ago over there. So when you hear, scans on his neck, no one would clear him on a physical, a condition that was found after a stinger. Does that kind of say like herniated disc or anything like that? Or what could be some possible issues with that?
Yeah, likely that's what it is. So he had probably stenosis or narrowing in the neck. And now some people, it can be congenital, where like they just have a congenitally narrow area where the spinal cord runs through. So that central stenosis, that's a real hard one. So those are some times that pro athletes just aren't able to keep going because the risk of like a neck injury is really, really high. If this is something you can operate on, because you can't operate on that, you'd have to open up the entire spinal cord, which obviously you could do. You just wouldn't be able to go back and play football. So this is likely a single level that had stenosis. And what happens is you get your neck in a certain position, it pinches the spinal cord. And that can be dangerous. I mean, those are times where you'll occasionally see like a transient quadriplegia, where an athlete gets hit and they look like they're paralyzed, or they have really bad radicular symptoms on arm, like the arm goes completely limp. And then you're worried about that happening again and again. And so that's, I'm sure what was going on is they definitely have MRIs of his neck, and they can see that narrowing. And they said, look, this is a potential issue. Now, if it's corrected surgically, then that's not as big a deal. The question is I don't know if they did a decompression, meaning they tried to go in and just pluck the disc out, or if they have to do a fusion, which, for example, like Peyton Manning had when he made his comeback. Both those things, can be effective. Obviously, if you have a fusion in the neck of a player like Chase Young and what he does, you're certainly going to be worried about long-term issues there. So it's definitely a complex topic, but I do believe there's a good chance if it was corrected with the decompression, he should hopefully be able to get back and not have issues that persist.
Interesting. I was reading a little bit more here too. It said apparently the neck condition was a factor in his trade market just this previous season. He said here the Bears weren't comfortable with the scans, but the 49ers were. So I mean, it sounds like it's a big risk either way to take that player on.
Yeah, I mean those are ones that just sometimes you don't know how they're going to go, and especially when you're dealing with neck issues, it's the nerves are involved, and it just makes you hesitant because those things can be absolutely career-ending. So, and now I mean players are getting much bigger contracts that have guarantees in them,
Mm-hmm.
and so when teams are investing, I mean the good old days when athletes weren't getting those guarantees, it was I think easier for teams to take a waiver on them and say, hey, let's just see what happens. Now these guys are getting, especially premier players like this, are getting, I mean, not completely guaranteed, but there's large chunks of these contracts that are guaranteed money or these signing bonuses to open up cap space. That if the team loses that bet, then all of a sudden they're feeling that for a couple of years, So it's just a bigger issue.
Yeah, and I think Packers fans are probably familiar with neck injuries like that, shortening careers. Sterling Sharp, Nick Collins, and those guys too. So
Absolutely.
he's Dr. Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine inside the training room. Doc, we appreciate it, and I know I want to give a shout out too because I know you've worked with a lot of them over at Sacred Heart. I know it's a sad day today with Sacred Heart closing, but and I know you've worked with probably a lot of people over there too. So we're thinking about them, right?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of years over there. Just looking at the whole scenario, it's obviously tough, and I think we're hoping the community continues to respond. There's a lot of different ways that people are going to have to adapt and change, and we're certainly doing our best. And there's an effort that we're doing on the kind of the private side of trying to get a community hospital started. And so there's a lot of effort by a lot of people, both on the medical side and business leaders. And so it's active, it's ongoing, and we're certainly doing our best to try to fill the void that's certainly going to be felt. But to all the nurses and all the people from top to bottom that worked at Sacred Heart and St. Joe's, we certainly wish you guys all the best, and it's going to be a tough transition for everybody.
Absolutely. So, all right, awesome. Well, enjoy the basketball games this weekend if you got a chance to watch them, and hopefully your bracket doesn't get too busted like mine is already. So
they always do.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate it, buddy. We'll catch up soon. Okay.
Sounds good. Take care.
You got it. There you go, Dr. Crow inside the training room, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Let's take a quick break, and we'll bring in Mr. Brandon Berg coming up in just a few minutes. Big thanks again to Dr. Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. If you missed any portion of that, we now include the Inside the Training Room as part of our Man Cave podcast episode. So you can check that out later on today. We've got Surveyor Sam chiming in. I'm calling it Charleston and Yale with the upsets today. Most wonderful time of the year. I don't know if he's going to like me saying this or not, but I don't care. It's Surveyor, so he won't get too mad at me. But he texted me. Apparently, he is related to Jack Golke.
Really?
Yeah. Apparently, they're like second cousins. So there you go. Small world, huh?
Small world.
Well, I saw you tweet something about him too. A connection.
Yes.
Over there. What was it?
Last year, he was at Hillsdale College, which is in Michigan, D2 school, and he was a teammate with Chi graduate Joe Ruder, who was just finished up an all-conference campaign over there with the Chargers.
So, Surveyor, pull some family strings and let's get him on the show. Come on now, dude.
Or at least get you some tickets to the round to 32.
Where's it at? I don't know. Can I make it there by tomorrow?
Pittsburgh.
I might be able to make it by tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We'll just get him on the show. How about that?
There
Surveyor, pull some family strings. Come on now. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever talked to the guy, but this could be a good time now. I'm sure nobody's reaching out to him.
Exactly. I'm sure you'll be the first person reaching out to him after this.
Exactly. Come on. Help out the program here, man. But we got some connections all across the board. You got a new article up about Ben Retzloff over there too. So we'll save that though for our local sports roundup. How about that? But he's with Marquette. Cool story over there too. I was talking with Justice about it on Monday. And what did he say? He was kind of like, there was no surprise when he was playing because he was just so intelligent back in his playing days around here.
Yeah,
so.
it was he was definitely one of those kids that when you talk to him, like you can kind of say, okay, I can see this kid being like a coach or kind of involved on that end of things. And, he is.
Yeah. So we'll get to that though, coming up in a little bit here, because I know we're kind of in that transition period between winter and still winter and spring sports right now. So, but let's talk some baseball. I want to lead it off here a little bit. Yesterday was supposed to be the day we were finally going to see Wade Miley get a start in spring training, and he's pulled, scratched with a pulled groin or groin tightness or whatever they're calling it right now. But so essentially, he's not going to be on the opening day roster. We'll see how long. They don't seem like it's too serious. But, I mean, this really, now you're starting rotations kind of like Freddie and then who? Colin Ray is going to be on there. I'm assuming Joe Ross, who I haven't heard a whole lot about.
There hasn't been much out there.
DL Hall? Could Aaron Ashley be that other guy? Is it going to be somebody else? Or where do they go? What's this rotation going to look like now until Wade Miley gets here?
It's kind of Freddie Peralta and friends right now.
Yeah.
But I think all those players you mentioned are in there. Probably Jacob Junius as well, free agent that they brought in the offseason. And then I think it's just going to be one of those years where, the team I'm sure has a plan in place, but it's just not as easy to follow with as maybe it has been the last few years when you just, it's, Corbin Burns and then Brenner Woodruff and then Freddie Peralta, and then Adrian Hauser and whoever kind of following. Like, it's not going to be kind of so paint by numbers A to B to C.
Right.
Which is, going to make it interesting to follow along with it, and obviously maybe give Pat Murphy a few more gray hairs.
Yeah.
Or lose a few hairs, either way, whatever it leads to. But I think they just have a kind of a collection of pitchers, and just because you don't start the year in the rotation, you'd be by injury, just because you're in the minors doesn't mean you can't be in there before long. Because
look at Colin Ray last year, right?
Exactly. I'm sure there's going to be some guys that log some very significant innings for this team this year that start the year in Nashville.
So we know Jackson Cherio is on the opening day roster, which the timing was kind of interesting because there was articles about his defense is kind of struggling. And then, Pat Murphy was saying, he's just putting a lot of pressure on him to make the team. And then it's reported that he does make the team. So it's like, okay, if he's got that off his shoulders, maybe he can start to just play baseball and relax a little bit. But we know he's on the team. We know Bryce Terang's the opening day starting second baseman. Obviously, we know Yelich is going to be on there. Rhys Hoskins is going to be on there. How do you see, knowing those guys that are on there playing? Like, do you think Joey Weimer's still on his team? Blake Perkins is a plus defender, and Garrett Mitchell, Sal Frelick, that might be the kind of domino. How much does he play at third compared to the outfield? Which it seems like, at majority maybe at third, or at least half of the time at third.
Yeah, they're giving him every opportunity to play third base in spring training, which if they weren't going to, if it was kind of just like a token, well, we'll see thing, you feel like maybe they would have kind of stopped it by now.
Right.
But I legitimately think he's going to be the opening day third baseman, which is crazy when you consider that doesn't happen very often, where you take someone that hasn't played infield since like high school, I think.
Yeah.
And say, okay, well, just go through it in spring training. You're going to be our third base guy. And, Frelick's kind of athlete that can do it, but, there's just going to be no substitute for when you're out there pretty much every day and, you're getting, ground balls hit at you. Like you can take all the grounders in practice and spring training you want, but it's just different in the regular season. But it looks like he's going to get that opportunity. So, I think the big domino in all of this is Eric Haas, who, a bat first catcher who has hit the ball really well in spring training.
Yeah.
And on a Brewers team that can always use more bats.
Mm-hmm.
Do you keep 3 catchers, which is something the Brewers have not done in a while? Do they keep, because obviously William Contreras is going to be the everyday catcher. Gary Sanchez signed a deal. He's going to be there.
Yeah.
Do you keep that third catcher knowing that you can, maybe work them in at DH a little bit? Certainly Gary Sanchez will get starts against lefties. Would not surprise me at all if he was the DH on opening day, just because Gary Sanchez hits lefty, hit lefty as well.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's the case, then that leaves someone else maybe on the outside looking in. Maybe it is one of those 2 outfielders you mentioned, either Joey Weimer or Blake Perkins.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, then you can kind of keep 4 outfielders, knowing you kind of got 5 with Sal Frelick there too. Ender Monasterio, I think, is probably pretty safe as being that right-handed option. That can play second. He's played short too, so he can play second, third, or short. I think he's kind of their primary reserve.
What about Ortiz?
That's kind of the thing too with Joey Ortiz is, I think he's done well this spring. I think the thing with him is you want to make sure he has an avenue to play, and maybe he does. It's possible he could be the one that plays against lefties. Maybe it's Ortiz over Monasterio.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're kind of similar. I think Ortiz is a much better defender, but they're kind of similar in that they're right-handed infielders that can play second, third, and short. And, do you want to keep 2 of those guys? That's kind of the question. And with the question of either one of them is, if you keep 2 of them, how much playing time they get? They're still younger, so ideally,
you want these guys playing.
Yeah, ideally, there's a reason that you don't have too many like younger players that are straight up like bench guys, because you want to get them playing time consistently, because that's how you continue to develop. You don't develop playing, making a start a week and then getting a couple pinch hits. Like you do it every day. So you're going to, ideally send them down to AAA where they can play every day. And then if the situation arises where you need them, they can jump up and jump in.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, Eric Haas is kind of the domino in this. And I think he's made himself on a major league team for opening day, be it the Brewers, or if they decide not, maybe a trade somewhere else. Remember, a few years ago, the Brewers traded for Victor Caratini on the eve of on the eve of the regular season. Stuff always happens, a late injury or another team just isn't happy with, how their backup catcher battle is developed. But I think he's going to be on that team opening day.
Is it also kind of similar? Was it a few years ago when they had like 3 first basemen, G-Man Choi, Jesus Aguilar, Eric Thames, and G-Man got traded to Tampa Bay,
yeah, because he was on the team opening day. I think it was 2018, because he had a big play in their opening win in 2018. Yeah. And then he actually got sent down like after opening day.
Right. Yeah, I think he had like an RBI hit or something.
Yeah, he did something. Yeah. But he ended up, I think, later on that year getting dealt. But, that's always the thing with the opening day roster is you can, it's a very big deal for the players. But remember, Joey Weimer, I believe it was, got called up like day 2 last year.
Yep.
Because of the injury to, I think it was Luis Arias.
Yep.
Where, it's always like, okay, who made the opening day roster? And then you have the rest of the season where it's like there's going to be, a million roster moves, especially with the way this team looks, where, it's kind of less established. Like, okay, this is going to be always the first baseman, the second baseman, the shortstop, the shortstop, obviously. But you know what I mean? There's so many spots that it's kind of going to go off touch and feel for Pat Murphy that there's going to be a lot of roster moves this year. So, if you make it opening day, it's fun to be a part of that and everything. But like, it's possible that by that Saturday, Sunday, or even the home opener against the Twins, like there's a couple different players up.
No. We're just a few games left to get a double or split squad game today.
And then they play some this week, and then I think it's like Monday, Tuesday they go to Colorado, or they play Colorado, because teams usually play like 2 quote unquote like exhibition games. Usually the Brewers are on the road for it, where they play somebody else like right on the eve, and I think that's Colorado this year for them. So yeah, we're getting down to it. I mean, when we're talking this time next week, we're gonna have a regular season game in our pockets.
We are, and on our podcast, I already kind of talked about in the first hour here, but we are going to do some Brewers and baseball previews.
I tried to have some fun with some of the Brewer prediction categories.
Yeah, I saw that. I did see that. So check that out later on this morning, right?
Yep.
We're gonna do that over there too. So before we take a break, this Ohtani thing is just getting weirder, isn't it?
I mean,
it feels like, so we touched on it a little bit yesterday, but then the longer this goes, there's more questions now, it feels like.
Yeah, like to me, there's just a lot of inconsistencies right now.
Yeah.
And usually when there's inconsistencies in different people's stories, like something's up.
Like if I'm an investigative journalist, I'm salivating right now, I feel like.
Right. You're looking at the same, like, okay, there's something's going on here. It's just a matter of what and who was involved.
Yep.
And that's going to take some time before we figure that out, but not what baseball was looking for, as their biggest star goes to one of the biggest markets. Global star.
Yeah.
Gets ready to go, and they have this whole series and they get that going, and it's just like not what you're looking for as you're looking to kind of start the year on a good note.
Yeah. Especially how it all started, where, okay, the translator was doing an interview, did an interview, and then it's like, oh, no, now we're recanting all that. And then it's like, oh, there's just,
right.
There's some more stuff going on here. And I don't think there's an outcome, regardless of how it is. And I don't want to start conspiracy or speculation, but I almost feel like whatever outcome is decided, it's not going to answer everything, or there's going to be,
there will be people that will inevitably not be happy with whatever the results are.
Yeah. Like either one side will be like, oh, they're protecting Ohtani, or the other side is going to be like, what the heck are you doing, man? That sort of stuff.
Right.
There's not going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, shrug shoulders and move on sort of thing.
Right. I mean, and then between that and look, it was only one start for Yamamoto, but I mean, obviously not a first start week.
The Padres almost blew it again yesterday.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I actually, because obviously the games were on super early, and I woke up yesterday and I just, happened to say like, holy cow, that game's still on.
Yeah.
So I actually watched like the last couple games, like, wow, this is like a slow pitch softball game.
Yeah, I know. It was like over 30 some hits, and I mean, it was like I was following along on the computer. I'm like, oh, okay, Padres put up 5 in the first.
All right.
And then it's like, oh God, are they going to screw this up again towards the end?
Right.
So, but yeah, it's weird though too, because I mean, I know that was technically opening day, but it didn't.
No, and that's happened before where they play, if they play internationally, because you want to make sure like you're giving those teams when they get back a few days to get reacclimated to the United States time zones and all that good stuff. But yeah, it's just weird. That's like, well, that was opening day, but it's like,
and I get it for travel wise, but to have 2 West Coast teams that early, it's even earlier for California people to want to watch that.
Yeah, it was early for us. I mean, it was like 5 o'clock for them. It's like 3 a.m. Like,
yeah. So
I can tell you this: if that was a Brewers playing, I would have had a tough time waking up for that. I mean, a little bit easier for you because you're used to it.
Right.
My mom is used to it. People, that are used to
that would be kind of fun actually to do a show while a Brewer game is going on right now. Yeah.
Well, would you?
Although no, I wouldn't have been on the radio.
You wouldn't have even had a show.
Yeah, that's right. Euchre would have been in Korea, probably calling
breakfast with Bob or breakfast with Lane and
who's the other guy now? Is it Josh?
Josh Mauer, yeah.
Josh, yeah. So yeah, because I heard his voice on the other day too.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Tell you what, let's take a quick break here, and we'll talk some hoops. You know what? Hold on. I was going to ask you your Final Four, but you don't have to tell me right now. I'll ask you in a little bit here.
Okay.
Did you have Kentucky? How far did you have Kentucky going?
Second round.
God, I had him in a Final Four. I fell into it though. Like that, I kept saying that region to me is the spiciest region.
And that's it. Like you never know. There's some years where you got one of those blue bloods or well-known teams that maybe wasn't quite firing on all cylinders, and they put together. Like
I just whatever. I don't know why I get so amped up over it. It's
right, and that's it. Like I will say this: my Final Four. I don't know if I've heard anyone else yet that had the same 4 teams I did. It's interesting.
Interesting. Okay, that's a nice tease. On that note, Let's take a quick break. We'll finish up the second hour coming up in just a few minutes. You want to get a little bit more into the baseball mood? Well, Micon Cinemas has the perfect movie for you tomorrow and Sunday as part of their Spring Kids movie series, partnering up with Backyard Dreams, Field of Dreams. This is going to be at the Oakwood Mall, Micon Cinemas location. 11 a.m. showtime, Saturday and Sunday. $3 for admission, just $2 popcorn, $2 sodas. Partial portion of the proceeds going to help Backyard Dreams. So if you were like me when you were a little bit young to maybe go to the theater and watch this movie, this might be a good one. Now take your kid if you got a kid to go see Field of Dreams. I think I might do that tomorrow. So, but and then next week it wraps up with the original Space Jam. To answer, Evil Surveyor Sam's question. Explain this Ohtani stuff to me like I'm a 6-year-old. Feel like I missed a lot of it. All right. By the way, it's 5-year-old if you're recording in the office. Just saying. Explain to me like I'm a 5-year-old. Ohtani's translator bet on sports. Apparently, it wasn't baseball. It was international soccer, NFL, basketball, and college football, I believe, too. He bet on it. Apparently, he was really bad at betting on it because he got himself into a big hole, like $4.5 million worth. Ohtani allegedly bailed out his translator, but this was all through an illegal bookie in California. So,
and sports betting is illegal in California.
Exactly. So that's where that's where it all started. But now the question is, since Ohtani, if he bailed them out, does he still get in trouble because he's involved in it?
Right. And then there's going to be the questions of, was he betting on Shohei's behalf, which is something else they're going to have to answer. And there's also very strict rules, and like with pro sports leagues about betting. Like generally, it's you can bet, but you can't do it on obviously the sport you play. And also, there's kind of very strict issues on like how you can do it. Like example, Jameis Williams with the Lions when he got in trouble. And the reason he got in trouble is he was actually placing his bets where you could legally bet, but he was doing it at like the team facility, which was illegal.
Right.
Like,
yep.
There's just a lot of that kind of murky stuff they got to kind of work through and figure out.
Yeah. And I know they said there was a couple payments, like $500,000 each that had Ohtani's name on it. And that's where like some of this like, okay, was that? And I think that's where the theft thing is coming, is like, okay, did his translator steal from Ohtani to pay these off, sort of thing.
Right.
So that's where it's all, because originally the translator did an interview with ESPN and said, and he said Ohtani's not involved in it. He was just paying off my debts. But then when the interview was done, spokesperson for Ohtani said, no, we're not airing that, kibosh shit sort of thing. And now it came out that Ohtani was a victim of theft. So It's just, that's where it's all weird right now.
Yes.
Where essentially he was given permission to do an interview with ESPN. Then after the interview, they're like, no, we're not going to do it. And then, yeah. So kind of weird. That's why there seems to be more questions right now.
Right.
With this whole
because there's
thing.
just so many different ways it could go.
Mm-hmm. So, all right, Brandon, who's your final four?
My final four is Houston, Iowa State, Baylor, Creighton.
Ooh, yeah, I don't think I've seen that one. I don't think I've seen that one at all. Who do you have in your championship game?
Houston over Iowa State.
Ooh, okay. Going with the Cougars, huh? A year too late, though. They were supposed to do it last year.
I think I picked them last year, too. So if they don't win it this year, I'm really going to have to.
Well, Jim Nance, I'm sorry, but you might have to go to the national championship and not have extra days at Augusta National.
Come on. Legendary Houston golfer.
Mm-hmm. Bring Freddie Couples with him, too.
Come on.
Over there.
You can do it.
Yep. So, didn't Tin Cup play at Houston, the movie? Well, somewhere in Texas.
Yeah,
Tin Cup and David Sims. To me, is the best golf movie. I know I'm in the minority on that, but I love that movie. I gotta look it up now. Did Tin Cup play at Houston? Yeah. I'll look it up in a little bit here. So, but regardless, okay. So, how far do you have Wisconsin winning?
I have them lost in the first round because.
How dare you? You fell into that trap. How dare you?
I was going to do one of two things.
You can't wear that Badger hoodie then.
I was going to do one of two things. Either I was going to have them make the Elite Eight, or they were going to lose right away. Because to me, there's no middle ground. It's one or the other.
No, there is a middle ground.
I sacrificed my bracket for the betterment of the Badgers.
You fell into the whole. Your whole bracket is just kaput now.
That's fine.
You fell into the Seth Davis trap.
I had nothing to do with Seth Davis.
Yes, it did.
No, it didn't. My bracket was going to be kaput anyway. I might as well make it kaput for good use.
So what you saw, because apparently you were at the Big Ten championship game, which I just found out this morning, and you didn't invite me to go. But
I invite a lot of people to go.
well done. You were a nice son and took your mom. So, but from what you saw, you're just like, I don't want any of that.
No, for me, from what I saw, I was like, is this as good as it's going to be for them? Like, especially after the Purdue win.
Yeah.
Like, the thing that's still, like, tremendous run, obviously, like, a lot to like coming out of the Big Ten title game. But the thing that still worries the heck out of me with the Badgers is their defense. Just, they struggle defensively.
Mm-hmm.
And
you didn't like the Wilpon kid just backing down Klesmet every single time? I mean, it was it was working for them.
You can't, when something's working, you keep doing it. But
at one point, can you just maybe try to take a charge? I don't know. I get that's tricky in that situation, but it's like,
well, I mean, given some of the calls that were called in the final 2 minutes,
true. Yeah, charge for even the game before. Don't get me started on the Zach Edey, Tyler Wall free throw line thing.
Hitting truck stick.
Yeah.
If you're playing NBA Jam.
Yeah. Okay.
The other thing, there's one thing about the matchup with James Madison that worries me. James Madison's a very good 3-point shooting team.
Yeah.
The Badgers are the worst team in the field when it comes to defending threes.
Yeah.
Like
perimeter D, that's why I
perimeter
said first
D,
out.
they're a smaller, faster team. I could see that being an issue for them.
Do we got to go old school Wisconsin and slow it down and play inside out with Stephen Kral with the height advantage?
There you go. A little Mark Vershaw, Andy Kowski level speed. Where
maybe Tony Bennett can consult them?
Defensively, yes. Offensively, I don't know.
Yeah. That's got to be Wisconsin's game plan, right? Slow it down tonight, inside out. Stephen Kral?
I think
you got to use the height advantage.
And I think Stephen Kral is such a he's not their best player, but to me, he's their most important player when you look at how they're successful.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're going to have the height advantage on JMU. Like, James Madison's not super big. So that's obviously a place you can go. And just in general in basketball, I feel like offenses work so much better when you get post touchers. You don't need to have a guy, someone that, or a guy or gal that's like a post player that's going to get you like 20 and 10. But just like your offense works so much smoother when you work inside out.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a big part of this. Like, in some ways, I do feel, Stephen Kral goes, this team is going to go.
I agree. It's a double edge because if you go bigger with Stephen Kral, that means defensively you might struggle a little bit there too.
Because you're going to likely have Kral at the 5 and Wall at the 4. So how?
Maybe this is a big game for Blackwell and McGee.
Could be. I mean, Blackwell was kind of nursing some injuries coming out of that last game. I mean, a lot of the guys were, so that extra day off is huge. But
yeah,
I think Kamari McGee has been really, and I think that's a big reason they've kind of turned it around since he's come back. He just provides energy, defense off the bench. Like, he's one of those guys that he doesn't play a lot, but you can definitely tell when he's in.
Yeah. Yep. Because there was that play, was it the Purdue where he was diving on the floor, and stuff like that. It's that, dare say the typical Badger, that one Badger, it seems like every couple of years, whether it's his actual Walters or somebody like that sort of player.
Right. Make the most of your minutes. Like you may only get like 8 or 9 minutes a game, but you know what? He's one of those guys that's bound and determined to make the absolute most of it. And that's what you need.
I wonder, if we may see more of him today or tonight.
Could be.
On the flip side, Marquette, Tyler Kolek, is he the key? Like how that injury,
his health, when he's out there, when he's healthy and he's good to go, he is dynamic. Like, he's one of the best players in America. Like, that's such a game changer for them if he's healthy.
Yeah, and it's the oblique injury, and you just kind of wonder, like, okay.
You always think about that for baseball, how, I think of that with Ryan Braun a lot. Like, the oblique, how it just lingered and lingered and lingered. And, like, obviously it's like a core injury. So
you're just like imagining it's one reach for a rebound, does it get re-aggravated or ting a little bit there?
Or one quick twitch kind of turn or whatever. Like, you just hope that he's good to go, because that is.
Because I feel like with the way the bracket's working out, I know you got Houston, but with how, Kentucky now out, Marquette's got a path.
That side of that bracket. It's a little bit open for him.
Yeah, there's a path there now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's where it's not a big spread, but Kolek's health has got to be the biggest key for this thing.
Right.
Because if he's on and he's good to go and he's close to 100% or even 100%, there, the floor should be an Elite Eight, the bare minimum at this point.
I think so.
To get there. So, But at least we get that one earlier on.
Right. You get it's spread out a little bit.
1 o'clock ish. I say ish because
you never know.
You never know. So, but yeah, we'll see how they go. And then of course, no, I was going to save that other stuff for our local sports roundup coming up just past 8 o'clock here too. So, did you make your buffalo chicken?
I did.
So was it sliders or what?
Just buffalo chicken sandwich.
Sandwich. Okay. I was trying to think
I've
of
had
that
some over the years. There's been some creative freedom with it, but yeah, and this is
creative freedom.
A little creative freedom. It's not like I have a certain recipe for it. I think I've said it on here before, but the story is like when I was in college, there was a restaurant on campus in Oshkosh that made like the best buffalo chicken sandwich. I don't know what they did to it, but
I do love a very good buffalo chicken sandwich.
Because a friend of mine, whenever we walked to grab like lunch, we would always notice there was like this big line. We're like, what is that? So one day we asked, and someone was like, oh no, they make, it was like a kind of like a carry out to go little place. And we went there and we're like, oh, we'll get a buffalo chicken. And they were amazing.
Do you do a little blue cheese dressing on it or ranch?
I went ranch this time, but I can, like I said, the recipe has changed a little bit. This, like Wednesday night, I bought myself like 2 pounds worth of
So is it shredded chicken or do you deep fry that thing and you got like a batter on it or?
Oh no, I put it in the oven.
Okay, so is there a batter on it or?
No, it is.
So it's a grilled.
It's like more of a grilled chicken.
Okay. Skinless.
Skinless, yeah. Okay. I mean, in the past, like I've done different ways. Like at first, when I was younger and I was a little more lazy, I would just get like chicken strips.
Yeah.
But this is the way to go. And like Wednesday night, I cut up like 2 pounds worth of chicken and soaked it in like buffalo garlic sauce.
Jesus.
And then just last night when I got done with work, went home and threw it in, got myself some large bread, as I would put it, because the bread's a part of it. And I got some cheese and some lettuce.
What kind of cheese?
Just mozzarella.
Okay.
Like kept it pretty simple, and then just shredded lettuce and.
Okay. Did you put buffalo sauce on it too, or?
No. The buffalo is in the it's in the chicken.
All right. So yeah, I want mine doused with buffalo sauce and ranch on there.
Yep.
Now I'm really hungry for a buffalo chicken sandwich.
There's I said there's different ways I can do it. That recipe for me has changed a little bit over the years, but this is the current incarnation. I really like it.
I wasn't planning on doing anything for lunch today, but I might
have to because
I've been doing a lunch date now.
Yeah, so last night and I will again tonight. So that's my
2 days in a row. Well, I suppose you cut up 2 pounds of chicken, bro.
Right. And then there was just enough chicken to fit on the bread, so that was good.
Oh, I don't have a tradition anymore.
But that's like I
feel left out.
That's pretty much like the only like when I think of like there's certain people that like, oh, this is what I make, like food wise. Like for me, that's kind of it because I make there's stuff I can make and I can bake and I can stuff, but there's nothing I'm like, oh, that's my specialty.
I don't know if I have a special. My wife thinks it's chili, but yeah, I feel like I'm destined for something greater than chili. But
nothing wrong with a good chili.
There isn't, but it's not really for a basketball March Madness thing for me.
Might be for today compared to yesterday, though.
That's true.
With cooler weather.
Well, true, but dang it, Brandon. No, I gotta figure out what I'm doing for lunch. So, all right, coming up next hour, we'll do a little local sports roundup. We've got a cream of the crop. We'll hit up next hour as well. So we'll get to that. We'll get back to some more hoops talk here. Give us your upset specials for tonight's games. Who do you think is going to be the new Kentucky? Who's going to be the one that everybody's going to be freaking out about after today? Let us know via the texting line 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line. I thought you were going to say something there.
Nope.
So we'll get to that coming up here in just a few minutes after these quick news updates. And don't forget, we'll save more of our baseball talk for our podcast coming up afterwards because Brandon's got.
We are loaded. I have some very interesting.
Brandon actually did some pre work.
I did. And we were talking about this and doing some Brewers related prop bets. So I've got some interesting ones.
Yeah. So I like it. All right, 2 hours in. We got one more to go. Stick around. We got some news updates, and we'll be back in just a couple short minutes. Final hour on this Friday morning. Appreciate you making us a part of your start on this Friday, or maybe some of you are already off for the weekend because you're taking off for hoops and that. So these are the days I miss being in college. I'll be honest with you, because I know Eau Claire's on spring break, UW Eau Claire right now, and I know exactly what I would have been doing yesterday and today. So especially with snow, I ain't going anywhere.
Right.
We're set up right now. So, but well, we get older. Some of us grow up. That's why they invented man caves, right? It's for days, weeks
It's like
this.
It's like your own personal McDonald's play place.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. Yep. I agree with that. We'll talk some more hoops coming up here in just a skosh. We'll probably we'll keep talking some more hoops here because we want to save some of the baseball chat for our podcast that we'll start recording right after we shut the mics off in less than an hour from now. So without further ado, let's do some local sports roundup brought to you by Amundsen's Appliance. We're in a transition period kind of right now.
A little bit. I mean, there's we've got some spring stuff. There's a few like teams that played some softball games this week, but mostly it's like infield track, infield track and field. Like Tuesday, Stout hosted the Blue Devil Invite, so a lot of local teams there: Chippewa, Fall Creek, Bloomer. Like just a lot of the teams in the area were there for that. So you've got usually up until maybe that first week after Easter, you've got indoor meets. And there's some still coming up this week too. Stout hosts some. Eau Claire's going to have some, but usually that's built in because obviously more often than not this time of year we still got snow on the ground, and you don't want, because track is the first sport to start in the spring. You don't want kids going like a month without any sort of competition. That's going to make everybody stir crazy. So but that's gotten going and underway. So we're with that. I mentioned softball, but baseball got underway this week. We've got girls soccer. I think started practice this week. Next week we'll have kind of the last of the sports getting going, which I think is boys tennis and boys soccer or boys golf. Excuse me.
Boys golf. Yeah. So. All right. So with that, though, we got a couple of local connections, and you did a fantastic job. By the way, everybody, shout out Brian. Brandon.
Good job, Brian. Woo! Good job, Brian. Way to go. I always believed in you.
Brandon won some awards. By the way, you got a shout out from your mom. She's proud from what you did with your awards.
Thank you.
There
Thank
too.
you.
So shout out, winning 5 awards for some stories and pictures
and various things. So from the previous year. So
good job, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you, Darren.
Oh, jeez. But nonetheless, we've got some local connections to both the men's and women's tournament, and you wrote some good pieces about them. Let's start off with Ben Retzloff.
Right. He Marquette gets going this afternoon. Tuesday, they're taking on Western Kentucky and the big red dot.
Yep.
But Ben Retzloff is actually his third year. He's on the staff for Marquette coaching, or the coaching staff for Coach Shaka Smart. Wears a lot of hats on that. He's working with a lot of the different departments. And
is his official title like assistant athletic director?
It's like assistant athletic director of the men's basketball program.
Okay.
Which, I mean, he's involved in so many different things. I think the best way I can describe it is that in many ways he's kind of almost like an extension of Coach Smart when it comes to like establishing and kind of maintaining like their culture and their brand of things. Like a big thing too.
Is he like Matthew McConaughey, the Minister of Culture for Texas?
Oh, he's a lot cooler than Matthew McConaughey. But like he's like honestly a lot of certain things you'll see on like their social media. Also like even the different signage and different things you see around Pfizer Forum when they're playing there. Like he's a part. That's him.
Okay.
Like there's just a lot of different hats he's involved with. Like, I mean, when you go to like the Marquette website and kind of look at like his page, like the list of like what does he do, it's just massive.
Yeah.
He's involved with other branches of the university with like like making sure things are kind of uniform and lined up. Like there's just so many different things he's involved with. And also, I mean, he was a basketball guy like that. He's mentioned he was great player at McDonald, helped them win the Division V state title in 2016, played a year at St. Norbert, but then went on the coaching staff here at Eau Claire for a few years, was on the staff and did some other things at down in Louisiana for Louisiana Tech,
Mm-hmm.
and then ultimately ended up at Marquette when Shaka Smart took over.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was able to talk to him about his job and just the team in general, because it's, with Marquette this year, it's such an interesting story because last year was kind of the year they reestablished themselves. They won the Big East, they won the Big East tournament, they were a top 10 team. Like, I don't say they came out of nowhere, but it had been the first time in a while that Marquette was at like that top echelon of teams.
Mm-hmm.
And this year they are again, but it wasn't quite the same. UConn won the regular season title, they won the tourney title, but Marquette's been good. We talked about the injuries, that's been part of it, but it's been a little bit different. It hasn't been like dominant for them. But in talking with Ben, it was very interesting and eye-opening to kind of hear, like, for them the goal is like, you want to be one of those teams that you're good every year, and then certain years you make the run.
Mm-hmm.
Like, basically you put yourself on the doorstep and sometimes you go through the door. And they've done that again this year, even with all the injuries. And obviously Tyler Kolek being healthy is a big part of that.
Mm-hmm.
But, they're a 2 seed. Like, we've talked about like that. There's definitely the possibility of them making a run in that bracket.
Mm-hmm. Could you see him? I don't know if this, could you see him being a head coach for a program? Is that something that
I don't know? Like, because I think he does some like basketball related stuff, but he also does other stuff too in there. So maybe that's more of the avenue where it's almost like, how you hear about now, especially more these days with the way things are, you hear about certain teams almost having like general managers.
Yeah.
Where you're in, like, you leave kind of the on the court stuff to the coach, and there's so much other administrative stuff with.
Well, transfer portal opened up a day after Selection
Exactly, with
Sunday.
transfer portal and the NIL and stuff like that going into it, that like you almost need somebody else to be your extension in that avenue. I could see that maybe being something for him where you're still involved very much with basketball, but there's so much other stuff you have to work with that, that's a lot to have on a coach. And like, not every coach is going to be able to do that.
Right.
So you need someone you can trust in that spot. Maybe that's something. But he, like I said, the best way I can describe kind of what he does is, in many ways, he's just kind of almost an extension of Shaka Smart when it comes to the other stuff around the program.
Gotcha. What do you know what the connection was? There a connection between him and Shaka when Shaka went there?
They might have met because Ben also traveled a lot for going to like different basketball camps that you see across the country. Like,
gotcha.
I remember talking to him after he went to one. I think it was down in Iowa, and he had met like one of the Antetokounmpos, like stuff like that, and he made connections through that because they
Shaka is from Wisconsin too.
Yeah, he's from Madison, so like it's not like he's completely disconnected to the state prior to going to Marquette.
Right.
But I think he made some connections there, so kind of I'm sure people kind of knew of him.
Mm-hmm.
And that, it would not surprise me at all if through one of those connections, that's where he made the connection.
Right. And then for the women's tournament, we've got a player for UW Green Bay from Chi High.
Correct, Kaylin Givens, and they get underway tomorrow. They're the 11th seed. They won the Horizon League.
Mm-hmm.
They play Tennessee, who's a 6th seed. They play tomorrow morning. I think it's 11 a.m. I forget if it's 10 or 11 a.m. But the game is on ESPN and it's being played in Raleigh, North Carolina. So, and I got a chance to talk with her, and that was a really, really interesting story because she's someone that she really had to bounce back from some injuries. She had like I think her freshman year she had shoulder surgery. Easy for me to say. Last year she had 2 different significant injuries. She actually, on the eve of the regular season last year, found out she had stress fractures in both her legs.
Ooh.
So she was in 2 boots for 3 months.
Ooh.
Was able to come back, got cleared, was like, on the verge of playing again. And then she had another injury. I forget the exact injury, but she was just shooting around in the gym by herself. And then
just a freak thing,
just a kind of another freak thing. But then she was able to make it back for the summer. They all worked really hard in the summer. Came into the season in the first month of the year, picked up a couple wins over top 25 schools. It was Washington State and I think it was Creighton, if I remember correctly. But that set them up. They had a really good year. They finished second to Cleveland State in the conference standings, went to the conference tournament, beat them for the conference title to get the automatic bid. Last year, the roles were reversed. Green Bay won the regular season championship. Cleveland State beat them to get in the right. But she's come out. She's just overcome a lot. Like, And it's weird because like in high school, like she was never injured. Like it's just one of those things. Like sometimes it just happens.
Right.
It's not like she was injury prone or anything. It's just kind of had a back to some bad luck and back to back. But she's come off the bench. She's played in pretty much all their games. Like, and for her, like obviously the idea of she has these injuries I think it was her sophomore year. She only played like 29 minutes. So I mean, obviously when you hear all this, and with the way things are, it's like, well, was there ever the idea of kind of going anywhere else? She's like, no, like I never, this is where I wanted to be. Like Green Bay was kind of her dream school, going back to, when she was in high school. She was actually born in Green Bay.
Okay.
And then getting the chance to kind of go back to like, this is where she wanted to be. And she said, like, I went to Green Bay for this, like the opportunity to go to the NCAA tournament. And touched on a little bit last week, but I don't know if enough people know just how good that Green Bay program is. Kevin Borseth is a great coach. He coached at Green Bay for a while. Then he actually went to Michigan.
Yep.
And then he came back to Green Bay.
Yep.
And they've it's been a few years since they made the tourney, but they've got a lot of tourney bids under their belt. And when I talked to her, it was before they knew who they played, but she said like they're not just happy to be there. Like this is, I mentioned before, they've beat Power 5 teams, and Tennessee is kind of one of those blue bloods. You think of Pat Summitt and all that. Like they're a 6 seed from the SEC, but like they're not just happy to be there. Like, oh, we made the tournament, that's fun. Like no, they're going there, and they're going there with the mind like we can win. And you look at this Green Bay team; it's a team that actually leads the nation in assist to turnover ratio. They've got like 6 or 7 different players averaging 6 points a game. Like they are very unselfish. They share the wealth. They don't turn the ball over. Like that's going to be a very interesting matchup tomorrow with them against Tennessee.
All right, good stuff there. Lots of stuff to watch for.
Yeah.
Connection wise there. Really quick too, just a couple other notes since with college, I know blue gold softball and baseball are down in Florida and such, but we do have some NCAA championships for women's and men's swimming and diving, gymnastics, NCGA nationals too. I know Stouts teams back over there as well. Blue gold's got some individuals with that there too. Also, for next starting next week, you got and we have an episode on the podcast about this, but starting Monday and it goes through Saturday, the national championships, junior national championships for curling being held at the Eau Claire Curling Club.
There we go.
And I know Team Abear, local team there that has won all across the world. They're a local team, Eau Claire team, so spotlight's on them too. But they should make some noise.
That's a fun facility over there. A few years back, some friends and I actually went there to curl, and I was awful, but like it is like it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And like obviously you see it during like the Winter Olympics and stuff, but like it's such a challenging sport.
Yeah,
it's a fun like a fun spectator sport too.
That was in Medford when I was in middle school. We had, I think it was just the month of January on Fridays, we had mini courses. And it was like your day was normal school day was done at 1, you're still in school, but for 2 hours you did a mini course. And they had some fun ones over there. Like one was a trading card one that my 5th grade teacher ran. The one that everybody wanted to do that was always sold out first though was curling. And so I never got to do it, but curling's big in Medford. Curling
It
clubs
is
over
like
there too.
I know, like I think Rice Lake's got a curling club. There's different towns, or these good sized towns do. And I remember what was it 2018? I'm trying to think of the Winter Olympics
With the Madison
yeah,
guy?
because it was like overnight.
Yeah.
Because I remember being up really late, like watching.
Yep.
Like it's fun.
Yeah. So we've got junior national championships all week long.
There we go.
So if you want to go over there, you can, as you said, it's a fun one to spectate there. You can go over there and watch too. Otherwise they're streaming it. But we've got an episode talking a little bit about that. We uploaded yesterday for your viewing pleasure. So, all right. That's your local sports roundup brought to you by Amundson's Appliance Center. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back with more. We got cream of the crop coming up as well. We'll get to that after these quick words. I'm a creature of habit. One of the very, very first things I do every morning is brew some coffee, not just ordinary coffee. It's got to be Cabot Coffee in Altoona. See, Cabot Coffee in Altoona also locally roasts and packages coffee, fresh and daily. I'm personally a big fan of the Giddy Up myself. Or if I'm in a hurry, I just pop on over to Cabot Coffee in the River Prairie District and grab myself a cup of Joe. They've got a wide range of options to choose from. That's just hard to pick one sometimes. So when it comes to my coffee, I need quality, not some brown flavored water. You get that at Cabin Coffee in Altoona. If you don't watch the video stream, Fridays are the day to do it so you can see some of the stupid stuff that Brandon does over there in front of the camera. You looked like a chipmunk or a squirrel or what yeah, like
I was vibing to the music.
you were. So, if you're not watching the video stream, you're missing out on some stuff. You should probably do that. YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter and such, and subscribe to the YouTube page, and you'll get like notifications when it pops up all the time over there. But we got the Carpet City Flooring Center local spotlight. We mentioned them a little bit earlier, but the shout out to Team A Bear and the Eau Claire Curling Club for hosting this junior national championship starting on Monday. So that's your spotlight, your youth sports spotlights for this week. That'll begin next week for them.
There we go.
So
well, we're letting you know this week.
Exactly. So you can go over there and maybe watch some
There
of
you go.
those games there. Want to do the cream of the crop?
Let's do
Are
it.
you ready for it?
I think so.
All right, Ben, what is your cream of the crop?
Well, Darren, obviously it's gonna be pretty simple about coming out fast. So I'm gonna go Jack Oakey.
I figured you were gonna do that.
I know. So, but and I credit to would we consider him friend of the show, Paulie Pabst?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yep.
He helped you with those hot wings that one time, right?
Yeah.
But Jack Elke yesterday obviously had a monster game. Pewaukee native and Oakland's upset at Kentucky. 10 of 20 from 3. 0 of 0
ball hog. No, I'm
from
just kidding.
from 2-point range. 0 assists for the year. Counting yesterday, so far, just to let you know a little bit about his game. Has attempted 327 threes. You know how many 2-pointers he's attempted?
Is it single digits?
8. My man's shooting nothing but threes, and I love it.
That's awesome. That is awesome. All right. Is that that's all you got?
That's what
I didn't know. Okay. My cream of the crop was actually you for your awards thing. Yeah, we got.
Is this because you were going to pick Jack Elke too, and then
no?
I took it?
I figured you were, so I was going to spin it and do
No.
it for you humble little guy.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Spare a little love over here, though. Can you give us some awards or something? I don't know.
We're trying. We're trying with
Nobody apparently likes the Festivus stuff.
Well, that's on them.
I just think it's it's kind of like the Baseball Hall of Fame.
A little
voters,
bit.
A little bit there. So you need the different batch of voters in, if you know what I mean. So we'll get there maybe at some point.
We appeal to the young generation.
Yeah, we do very much so. So, all right. There you go. There's your cream of the crop for this morning. Right, it's been kind of quiet now for NFL free agency, hasn't it?
Yeah, we had the first wave, and then you kind of it simmers down. It simmers down for a little bit, and then you kind of once you get a little, later, maybe next week or into April, then it kind of get that second wave of maybe some of the players that were kind of maybe aiming a little bit higher financially and realizing that just might not happen.
Yeah. I mean, it was last week when the Vikings made a trade and got that extra first round pick. So a week later now, though, do you still feel like they're going to trade up to try to get somebody? And
I do.
Do you have a team in mind? I mean, New England's a wild card in this whole thing, aren't they? I mean, because the first two we know are going to get a quarterback.
For me, it comes down to if New England, one, how much they would like whoever that third quarterback is. It sounds, I think, might be Drake May. How much do they like that third quarterback versus the idea of that New England roster is not good at all. Where if you're taking a longer term approach to it, which you feel like you are with Rod Mayo and Elliott Wolf in that group, do you say, look, if you don't like Drake May enough or JJ McCarthy enough, do you say, look, we can probably get our quarterback next year, but whenever he comes in, we need to make sure he's surrounded with something. We're not feeding him to the wolves.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we do that? Well, we can trade back, get a couple firsts, plus a little more, to start building that up, because it's not like this team is ready made for a young quarterback to drop in right away. That's why I am all in on the Vikings being aggressive and going up and getting somebody, because they are much better served for a young quarterback because of the receivers, because of the coach, because of just where they are.
Yeah.
These are teams that are kind of in different spots.
Right.
So if it's not 3, I think I could be 4 or 5 at the latest. But but when you trickle down there a little bit, then you open up the possibility of others.
I know JJ McCarthy's name's been floated out there, but then it's Michigan's pro day today, and apparently no Vikings contingent. Like the GM they're not there. But is that gamesmanship too?
But they're also having a private workout with JJ McCarthy.
Right.
So it sounds like that may be the approach they take with these quarterbacks is we can learn more working with them ourselves than we can, watching them along do the same thing.
In their own, because that's the college sets that all up.
Right. And their sterile predetermined environment.
Yeah.
So it seems like that's kind of what they're
big words.
That's kind of what they're doing there. But no, I think they traded for that move. They traded for that pick with this in mind, where they can move up and get one of those top 4 quarterbacks.
It sure feels like it. It's just,
and I think right now there's just kind of that waiting game.
And if I'm New England, if I can get 2 first-round picks, I'd almost be tempted to do that,
and
because their roster
and maybe a little more.
Yeah.
Maybe some mid-rounders or
Right.
whatever else. Like, because again, if you say you draft Drake May at 3, you've got Jacoby Brissett there right now, so he doesn't have to start right away. But right now, what's he surrounded with?
Right. Exactly.
They signed KJ Osborne. Yeah, I like KJ Osborne. It was in Minnesota, but he's a third wide receiver.
Right.
Like, if he has to play, you risk ruining a guy.
Yeah. That's where, and the thing is too, remember Elliott Wolf's now the guy making these.
I think Elliott Wolf understands the importance of situation for quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That to me, the Patriots pick is kind of fascinating.
If
they make a pick or they trade out.
It is. Yes.
That to me is where the draft starts.
Or
right now at this point in time,
right. Because we touched on this a little bit last week. Or if you're the Patriots, do you not? I mean, maybe you want one of those quarterbacks, but maybe you like JJ McCarthy too. So you tell Minnesota, like, hey, go get pick 4 from Arizona.
Yeah,
and then we'll swap for. So
4, we know 4. They're not getting a quarterback.
4 or 5. I think 4 or 5, because 5 is the Chargers.
Yep.
Now
they need more help now.
Well, and that's it too. The Chargers, it could be a trade down candidate because they need a lot, especially in the trenches, which that's where.
Well, they need wide receivers now too.
So maybe that's it too, but I don't feel like they made this move just to get a second round pick. I feel like they made it to package to move up to get whichever quarterback it's going to be.
Yeah. To answer our good friend Josh's question, how do the Packers trade up to get Harrison Jr. worth the draft picks, et cetera, to do so? Thoughts? No. I love me some Harrison Jr. I was on record earlier this season when the Packers were stinking that I wanted Harrison Jr. Things changed though.
Yeah.
That's going to be too rich for my blood.
Right. Because you're moving up. Because you're moving up. Where the Packers pick 26?
Yeah, I believe so.
25, whatever it is. Like, you're moving up 22 spots. That's going to be multiple firsts at that point.
Well, it'd be similar, probably even more expensive. Was it when Buffalo traded up to get Sammy Watkins?
Could be.
You remember that draft? When they moved up to get there.
Yeah.
That's the last wide receiver I remember. Or heck, when Atlanta went up, got Julio Jones. Yeah,
and both of those were a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
So you feel like maybe even it's a little bit more now, just because teams prioritize picks more now more than ever. So it would be significant.
Yes, I just think that is a position now, and I don't know. Maybe these young rookies don't develop like what we saw last year. We don't know, but we haven't seen anything. I mean, you kind of have to go based off what we saw last year, and to me, is that necessarily a big position of need right now? And I don't think it is. I think there's other ways you can utilize those picks that would help you more, like round out your team at this point. And the thing is like let's say Green Bay is done adding free agents. They still need another safety. They're probably going to need another running back. They're going to need some offensive line help. They're probably going to need another linebacker. If you're going to package up all those picks for a wide receiver where you've got guys at already, where are you going to get those other dudes at then?
Yeah.
So
it's a balancing act.
For me, no. I'm one that said I wanted Harrison when we were going to have a top 5 pick.
He could be the best player in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
Very possible.
And now there's some chit chat that he might not even be the first wide receiver to go.
Man, sometimes and then again, I would like to, and maybe I should just like start jotting down like the rumors we hear.
Yeah.
During this, especially the final month. That's when it really starts to be smokescreen season.
Yep.
And then go back to it and see like, various insider says this. Okay, well that was baloney.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this was actually true.
Right.
And to me, right now, that biggest one's JJ McCarthy. Like, is this interest that so many people seem to be showing legit, or is this Will Levis from last year?
Yeah.
Where remember Will Levis, like the day of the draft, was like top 5, top 10.
Yeah.
Like,
there was some mocks that had him at 2 to Houston.
Yeah. And then
Mel said he was his best quarterback outside of Bryce, or yes. Mel Kiper was high on it.
Yeah. So like this happens.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's almost like you have to listen to everything leading up into the draft, and then you just kind of like you almost have to have the scorecard of like, okay, now really what's happening here?
It ain't gonna happen, but it's interesting that you mentioned that number 5. Who owns that pick?
Chargers.
Who is Harbaugh, McCarthy?
And that was the funny thing too was talking as this is all developed and it's like okay the Vikings are going to draft a quarterback. Some of the scuttlebutt was like, what if you trade those 2 firsts for Justin Herbert?
Yeah.
And then that way, then you have Harbaugh who can get his quarterback. It's like, well, they're not going to trade Justin Herbert. Like, that's not going to happen. But it's just like, because I'd seen someone that, it would. Like, it's like you can get him and someone that sketched out where, like, you could get, like, how they could pretty much draft a Michigan person at each of their picks.
Yeah. That's what I was like, okay, so they need a running back. They can get Corum.
Like Corum.
At running back over there. And, okay, then you got your, it's all going
to That might be a fun, like, prop bet, like which pick do the Chargers take their first Michigan player?
Yeah, I think that is might go second round Blake Corum or third round, fourth round. Probably third or fourth, but who knows?
Pair him with the Gus bus. Yeah, pair him with the Gus bus.
That's a fit. So, that is good. Jot that down. We'll remember that for when we do some draft stuff when we get closer for some prop picks. I like that one. I like that one a lot. So, trying to think, what would another team be like? Well, then it's like the Eagles. How many Georgia players are they going to draft on defense?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Baltimore and Alabama.
Let's say otherwise. How many times does Baltimore trade down?
Yeah, yep. And then which Alabama defender are they going to get? So,
it's
so weird to see how some teams just. Green Bay is kind of like that with Iowa a little bit sometimes,
a little bit, but not as much.
Not as much as like Philly recently has been with Georgia. So, just draft the whole Georgia defense for crying out loud and put them up over there. So. Or maybe the Bengals drafting LSU guys too. So
could be.
They want Justin Jefferson.
They're gonna go ahead and trade one of those receivers and then go and get what's his name? Brian. You can get Brian Thomas or one of those guys.
Bring in Jane Daniels too. Might as well.
2-quarterback system.
Start it over. Oh man, I'm starting to get the itch though for. This draft, but also next year.
Well, and for me, like I think once the Vikings made that trade last week, I'm like, oh, like this is like they're going to do this because I would be absolutely stunned if they did not move up to get the quarterback. Like
and I texted you, I think it was this week or last week. The credentials open.
It was
up for
early
this
week,
draft.
yeah.
I'm like, because I'm not going to this one in Detroit, which by the way I feel like is really quiet.
Right.
But I'm like, okay, now it's like the next one of these emails I get, it's gonna be for 2025.
Yes, and I'll have to, just.
There is a Radio Row, but not a lot of details on it because it says hours of operation.
Right.
And it said, people on Radio Row will be able to watch it on a TV, and I'm like, well, if it's only open during the draft, I ain't doing that. I want
I want to be there. Yeah,
exactly. So hopefully it's like hours of operation. 5 a.m. too.
Well, yeah, then that's obviously what we would do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we got to find a locale to park the Dan van at and do the broadcast from. It's coming. I saw some of the
That
mocks.
I like the idea of just driving around Green Bay.
I think I like that too. We might have to hire a driver, and then they just drive us around while we do the show.
You know what? Let's get Balkman to do it for us.
Yeah, what is he doing?
Hanging out.
He's got a weird beard now.
He does. Going and having like 25 fantasy football leagues.
Yeah. Wouldn't that we can hire a driver though? And
we could.
Dude, this could be something we just randomly stop, and
we're at the Quick Trip at the corner of 7.
We'll do like instant polls on the street. We're on the street, man. Ooh, we might be onto something here. Making it very mobile.
The very mobile man cave.
Can we make this legal? It's illegal to do this, but put some sirens on there too.
Oh,
some
my god! Yeah,
strobe lights on there. And just cruise through like really slow through Green Bay, and we'll get pulled over by cops and be like, "What are you doing?" Sort of thing.
Hey, guy in Jaguars jersey. Who are they gonna pick?
Yes,
like a random person mock draft.
Yes. Oh, dude, this could be fun. This could be. We'll just have to have that person. You got to drive for 3 hours because the show's for 3 hours.
We could get Balkman to do this.
Driving around and do. Oh, yeah. I think
we could get Balkman to do this
because I mean, internet-wise, we'll just create a hotspot
Yep.
and do it. Oh yeah, this could be fun. This is what's going to win us that WBA for best show. That
2026, we got it.
Yes. Boom.
The mobile mock draft.
We don't need a locale. We're going mobile. Unless there's a heavy snowstorm, then we got to have a plan B.
Would that not be the most Wisconsin thing ever?
I kind of want it to
like
happen
a freak 5 but but as much as we had to hear the media complain about the Super Bowl in Minnesota,
oh god, it'd be unbearable over there.
Or the media complain about having to go to Milwaukee in summer, to cover an NBA Finals. Oh no,
yeah, it was ridiculous.
It
was absolutely ridiculous.
And granted, it was cold that week, but everything was inside.
Yeah,
Peter King went fishing, right?
He went ice fishing.
Yeah,
he's never did it. So
he had the right idea.
Yeah, it's like
embrace it.
I'm gonna go do something.
Embrace it.
So a lot of people are saying dibs on driver right now. So apparently we could. We might have a crop to choose from. Who would be the cream of the crop? See what I did there. So see, and you know what? The Dan Van is going to be able. We can have sponsors on that too. So why wouldn't you want to be a sponsor in a Dan Van?
Why would you not want to sponsor the Dan Van
when we're cruising around Green Bay during draft day? Your logo is going to be right out there
in front of thousands
and thousands of people. I mean, your logo is going to be right there as we're doing a show driving through historic Green Bay. And then, of course, on 29 when we got to drive home and over there.
And when it's parked.
Yes, exactly.
Advertising that's always working.
Yes. We've got the Dan Van is open. Seriously, it's open for
no
sponsorships.
No days off.
You can get your logo on the Dan Van. So
no days off.
Mm-hmm.
My inner Bill Belichick.
We should have a quote to put on that Dan Van like that. Yeah.
We got time to think of the quote. What's the quote for the Dan Van?
It's got to be like on the windshield, though. Like on the top there, the sun thing on there. That's what it's got to be. So, like, we're in the rearview mirror of somebody, and they look and like, what does that say?
You gotta put it backwards.
Yeah.
That way, when we're behind somebody,
yes, yep,
they're like, it just reads. Like, oh.
or what is it? The bug thing.
Well, the bug deflect. Yeah, like the bug shield.
Bug shield. Yeah, put that on there too. So, look at us coming up with ideas. I like the mobile one though. I like that. I don't know if my bosses like the gas bill, but this is why we need these sponsors.
There you go.
To go, we'll just pick up random people and have them on. Hey, we might be driving down a street and Daniel Jeremiah is just walking across. Hey, DJ.
Who you got for pick 9?
You want a man cave lights? Schefter. Never know. Or maybe it's one of the draft guys. Maybe Shedeur Sanders. We'll get him in prime time on.
Coach Prime.
Because they're probably staying at the Kohler Lodge. It's right there. We'll just kind of drive around in a circle until we see somebody. Get them on. This is going to work. I like it. Oh, yeah. We're going to win awards with this one. We might win an Emmy, a sports Emmy.
Oh, what? An Emmy, an Oscar, a Tony?
We're going to beat DP to a sports Emmy for best show because of this. Just saying. It's going to happen, man. Oh, you have no idea how geeked up I am now. I am so excited for this. We may have to create a big hotspot though too, because we want some video on this.
The hottest of spots.
Yes, exactly. All right, we'll be back to wrap up things after this. The ideas are continuing to flow.
It's 13 months to the 2025 NFL draft, and you are like, you're hitting the rev limiter right now, aren't you?
Yeah, because I love the idea. We're going to try to find a fan. Brandon and I did this when we went to the draft in Chicago in 15. We just randomly tried to find. It was like a game.
Like, hey,
whatever.
find the jersey from everybody.
Yeah. I like this idea. We drive around, try to find a fan, but then that's the mock draft. So
like pick number 1 is the Patriots. So first Patriots fan we see, hey.
Yep. Yeah, something like that. Or like we see a Falcons fan or something like that. The only thing is we got to make sure we got to keep a marker board so they don't duplicate the pick.
Oh, yeah.
Over there. So, and then whoever we find, we'll give them some man cave light or something like that for being a player in our celebrity mock draft.
Fan mock draft.
Fan mock draft. Oh, dude, this is shaping up to be pretty epic. I can't wait. We got a year to make this right, to make it good.
We're gonna have.
We got a year, and I
think
Wayne
from Letterkenny. If you're gonna come, you better come correct.
Yes, thank you. All right, shall we do some picks and predicts? Brought to you by the Elbow Room. Hey, if you're looking for somewhere maybe to catch some of the games and also enjoy a cool, crisp man cave lights, check out the Elbow Room right next to the Banbury Place in Eau Claire. Let's just do a couple of NBA games. So we got T-Wolves Cavaliers tonight. Who are you rolling with?
I'm going to go T-Wolves. Maybe this time Anthony Edwards just straight up takes somebody's soul on a dunk.
Don't break a finger while you're doing it either.
Right,
dislocating it.
Oh my gosh.
I do love now you had, of course, it's going to be like this. Social media, somebody freeze framed it and said, well, he technically didn't dunk because his hand's on there. And I'm like, oh my God, really?
We're gonna break this down when this happens. Like, come on, enjoy it.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm going T-Wolves too. Bucks Thunder on Sunday.
It's a big one.
It is.
Like, yeah, I mean, I don't know if maybe a lot of people that don't follow the NBA close know the Thunder.
Number 1 right now.
I'm gonna go Bucks. I think they pulled it out last night, getting Giannis back. He gets a couple days. Like I'm going Milwaukee.
Yep. Middleton, I think, will play because it was a back-to-back. He didn't play last night. So, I mean, and Middleton, his first 2 games back,
he looks good.
Really
good. Like, I'm glad they took their time with it.
Yep. So, I'm anxious to see Damian's playing at a high level right now. Giannis is in an MVP conversation. I think Dame should maybe get some talk. I mean, he had another game 30-plus and over, 12, 13 assists again last night. So, now you add in Middleton, who's looked really good. I want to see this team
starting to come together, Pepper.
Starting
to come together.
Thank you. Somebody else finally said that besides me. So,
yeah.
All right. Right? No? You don't like it, or yeah?
No, I'm taking it in. Like,
okay. Don't worry, I can't wait for Augusta National to. I did not know, by the way, the theme song for the Masters is called Azalea.
Nice.
Did you know that?
I did not.
I just thought
it was like the Masters thing.
Well, that's what because I was in a little bit earlier this morning and getting some work done, so I put music on in the background. I'm like, I'm really getting in the golf mode, so I put the Masters theme on. And it's actually from the Masters YouTube page, where they have it on loop for over an hour, and it says in the description the theme song, quote, Azalea.
I did not know that.
I'm like, oh, that just even better. Okay, first game, Northwestern, Florida Atlantic.
I went Northwestern. I mean, FAU is one of those teams that people are kind of wondering, would they be in? I just think a big game on a boo-booey.
Boo-booey. You just like saying boo-booey.
Boo-booey.
I'm going FAU. I'm going FAU. Baylor, Colgate.
Baylor.
UAB, SDSU, San Diego State.
I went to San Diego State.
San Diegans. Yes, San Diego State. Marquette, Western Kentucky. Marquette for me too. Let's go then with what do we got? UConn and Stetson. Not Stetsonville. Stetson.
It'd be a little bit different if it's Stetson, but I'm gonna go UConn.
Yeah, UConn. Clemson. A lot of people like New Mexico in this one.
I went New Mexico on this one.
I think I did too. So we'll go with that. But I saw some people have them making a little bit. Is that where Mr. Patino's?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
The younger Patino.
The younger one, the former Gopher coach.
Yes.
Yale, Auburn.
Ooh.
Can an Ivy League team get a win?
I went Auburn.
I went Auburn too. Where am I at now here? So we've got, Colorado, Florida.
An interesting one. I went with the Buffaloes, though.
I went with Colorado too, man. Texas A&M and Nebraska.
I went with Nebraska ball.
Nebraska too. Because first of all, I don't know which version of Nebraska is going to show up, but I'm going to go with the high scoring one.
Mhm.
Shows up for this one. So then we got Duke, Vermont.
Over the years, Vermont has been a fun pick for me in the tourney. Just one of those teams when I see them, I like to pick them, but I didn't this time.
Yeah,
Duke.
I'm going Duke too. Grambling State, Purdue.
Purdue, I don't think it happens twice in a row. Unfortunately.
Alabama or the Charleston College, that Charleston Cougars.
The Charleston Chews.
Charleston. Thank you.
I am going to go with Alabama.
I love you like Charleston in this one, man. I officially went Alabama too, but I might go Charleston if I could redo it. If there was a upset that was going to happen today, I feel like it's Charleston. Houston.
Houston.
Yeah, okay. So, no offense to Longwood, but
hey, that's over in Taylor County, between like Greenwood and.
No, it's not.
There's an unincorporated place called Longwood.
No, there's not. Is there?
Yeah, there is. There's an old feed mill there.
There's a feed mill?
Like an old feed mill there. Like that's all that there is.
Really?
Be careful Googling that.
It's in Clark County. Okay.
Yeah, I said Taylor County. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that's why. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
Oh, it's off of Colby Factory Road. I know where Colby Factory Road is. All right. The more you know. Where are we at? Lost track now. Longwood. Wisconsin, James Madison. Brandon is a Badger hater.
I picked James
Badger, Schrader, hater.
Notorious Schrader hater.
Take the hoodie off. You can't cheer for them. No longer. What are you, like a fan of the fourth president of all time? Or all time. The fourth president.
In the tournament, you have to be worried about schools named after people.
Well, George Washington was a 2-seed, I think. Or no, they were really that was a long time ago.
James Madison.
Here's my problem.
Stephen F. Austin.
You had the Duquesne Dukes yesterday win. It's also the James Madison Dukes.
It is. And there's a school called Duke.
I know.
Too much Duke.
That doesn't make any sense. And isn't it like a Duke, a royal thing? The Duke of whatever?
Duke of Earl.
Yeah. So James Madison was part of the Revolution. I mean, this doesn't fit. It doesn't fit.
These are the only analytics you can get here, folks.
Yeah. So this is why the Badgers win. Utah State versus TCU.
I went with TCU.
See, now you're just a Jordan Love hater. I'm going Utah State. Utah State. Let's go with, why does this keep refreshing on me? Grand Canyon versus St. Mary's.
I went St. Mary's. Interesting one. This is actually, St. Mary's. The Gales.
I went with St. Mary's as well. That's the last one, right? Yeah.
I think that's good.
All right. Does UW Green Bay win tomorrow?
I'm going to say yeah.
Well, yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Yep. Do it. Who do you have in your championship? Are you going with the chalk of South Carolina for the women's side?
I think I went South Carolina and UConn. Look,
I got South Carolina and Iowa and South Carolina winning it. I really went chalk, yes.
Well, it'll happen, but I just want to make sure I got this. Yeah, my Final Four was South Carolina, Stanford, Iowa, UConn. With South Carolina over UConn in the title game.
Yep, that's a good one. UConn's like a 3-seed too,
they are.
Aren't they? So.
Yeah. I think they're a little bit under the radar with everything going on, but they're
All right, there's your picks and predicts. Again, brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire. How about this for a fun nugget? So it's pro day at Michigan today, right? Tell me the last Michigan offensive skill player taken in the first round. Skill player, so not lineman.
Braylon Edwards.
Bingo, 2005. Ended on a high note right there.
The first one that popped in was Tyrone Wheatley. I'm like, no, gotta be quicker than that.
Oh,
I'm like, obviously, it's been a long time for quarterback. I'm like, tight ends,
good. Great. Nice pull. That a boy. 2005 was the last time Michigan had an offensive skill player in the first round.
That's gonna change this year.
That's what they say, JJ McCarthy. Assuming that's not a Will Levis thing, kind of what you said.
Yeah.
But, 2005. Been a hot minute, which is kind of weird to think for Michigan.
It is.
Almost 20 years.
But then when you sit down and think about it, like, I mean, they've had like second round quarterback, Ed Haney.
Yep. Tom Brady was a sixth rounder.
I don't know if I've heard about that.
Yeah. But
he was the first rounder on Bill Polian's board.
Another goal when we're in the draft. Find Bill Polian. He's got to be a pretty good draft somewhere, right? Maybe. I don't know.
That's just random. Like, we gotta find Bill Polian.
I want to ask him about that. If he really had Tom Brady as the first round pick, if we can get the truth out of him. But hey, I like this Dan Patrick Show poll question really quick because we got 20 seconds. Who's having a worse 24 hours, Shohei or John Calipari?
Ooh, I'm gonna go Shohei because
Shohei too.
Right now, if Calipari gets fired, he has a $33 million buyout.
Yeah, he's okay.
He's fine.
He's fine. And he already won a national championship. So, all right. Brandon and I are going to record a Brewers podcast here, preseason preview of the Brewers. So that'll be up later on this morning on the Man Cave podcast. Enjoy the games today. We'll be back at it again Monday morning, just past 6 a.m. Talk to you then.